Good evening and welcome to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. 13 weeks ago we started this journey, and now in this weekend it all comes down to the end. Blank Esports versus Flash Wolves, the final two teams remaining. I'm Kevin Walker, joined with me tonight, Matt, Pixie, Carol. How are we doing?
This has been intense, and I'm doing good, and maybe even a little bit relieved. You're right, 13 weeks. It's been a marathon effort for these teams, for us, for everyone involved, and it's been a great journey as well. I think this is probably the most fitting kind of final as well. In a way, we've kind of ended up exactly where we expected, and in a way, it's the best kind of journey.
放进口袋，有快乐存在，把心事全部摊开，阳光晒一晒，好的心情就让奇迹去编排。像每次你朝我来，我充满愉悦的色彩，就跟我来场比赛，欢迎你火力全开，我用甜蜜攻势备战，骄傲的人快闪开。慢跳起不够嗨，只有真心不被打败，不淘汰。爱的笑声已旋转，要向你传送我的期待。看谁能把谁的心光占，有感觉来出战，就决定是你了 ，Boy I'm in love with you, I run to you.You, oh, be with you, I think of you. 爱为我们喝彩，用你的笑把我宠坏。You， 坏情绪放进口袋，有快乐存在，把心事全部摊开，阳光晒一晒，好的心情就让奇迹去编排。像每次你朝我来，我充满愉悦的色彩，就跟我来场比赛，欢迎你火力全开，我用甜蜜攻势备战，骄傲的人快闪开，慢跳3不够嗨，只有真心不被打败，不淘汰，爱的笑声已旋转，要向你传送我的期待，看谁能把谁的心攻占，有感觉来主宰，就决定是你了 ，Boy I'm in love with you， 一起围绕爱旋转，鼓动全身的姿态，两人之间不用谁对谁崇拜，只要能当彼此唯一的青睐。不淘汰，爱的笑声已旋转，要向你传送我的期待，看谁能把谁的心攻占，有感觉来主宰。With you, I run to you, you, oh, be with you.You, think of you， 爱为我们喝彩，用你的笑把我宠坏。You， 谢谢大家，谢谢老师。不好意思，我喝个水。各位 Overwatch 的玩家们，大家好，我是林明珍，来自马来西亚。相信今天大家好，喂，听到吗？
听到？好，就相信今天比赛的玩家们应该会非常的紧张，所以预祝各位就是可以拿到大奖，然后赢得今天的比赛。接下来呢，因为有点喘，我故意就是要那个延缓时间，因为等一下要唱一首抒情歌曲，也是收录在我的全新 EP #me 唯一一首抒情歌，叫《不是不爱》，希望大家会喜欢。千里满手才刚我老，转眼就已轻易放掉。是否恋情只求暂时美好？而我的你还在人潮，能感觉你却触不着，宁可若不是对的人，不想要。我不是不爱，是因为明白感动和精彩随时间摇摆，站在路口和恋人们并排，空的手只能插口袋。我不是不爱，是知道你在等我这女孩，把感伤都释怀，请你稍作忍耐，过完这场等待，我就回来。我看到很多人现在在吃着晚餐，我看了也好饿哦，而且还有很用心的在玩这 cosplay。幸福的荡气谁在瞧？馒头丝里有些难熬，到时候你可要把我给找到。我不是不爱，是因为明白感动和精彩随时间摇摆，站在路口和恋人们并排，空的手只能插口袋。我不是不爱，是知道你在等我这女孩，把感伤都释怀，请你稍作忍耐，继续等待，我就来，请你稍作忍耐，继续等待，别更改。谢谢大家，我们下次见，加油
See you next time.
再次感谢明真今天带来的。
Of course, thank you once more to Min Chen for kicking us off in the grand finals. Once again, it's Flash Wolves versus Blank Esports, and what a way to start things off.
And now, of course, it is time to meet those teams, starting with Flash Wolves.
Flash Wolves, the most dominant force so far displayed in the tournament. They had an interesting run to start with the second best team in the first round robin. and now looking like the best.
And that first round robin was the only time Blank actually beat them. The record between these teams, 3-1 to Flash Wolves.
It's just the realization that you can't always win every game, and losses aren't as bad as you think they are because you can learn and improve from them. Just watch over Overwatch, see mistakes.
I guess it's not a surprise that we're here. We kind of expected to get to this point before the tournament started. We honestly expected to do better, I guess. We're going to be working really hard to win the playoffs as well.
Kind of interesting thoughts from Gunbert at the end there. A man I would describe as very frankly spoken. He's actually been very blunt, very honest throughout the entire tournament of really where he considers the team to be.
Of course, their opponents. Look, I actually agree with what Gunbert was saying there, but as well as Blank being expected to be in the playoffs and then also potentially even in the final as they are now, Flash Wolves are that other team that are kind of expected from day one, from week one, you might even say, from that initial round robin, to be here at the end of the day. The best two teams that started this competition are the same best two teams that will now end it.
And Flash Wolves are kind of the other side of that coin. You're completely right. As much as Blank are kind of, you know, this almost super team to emerge from the Australian and New Zealand esports scene, Flash Wolves are kind of the same for Taiwan. They're this team stacked with individual talents, just brimming with potential, and that potential has absolutely been realized.
Yeah, there they are. Flash Wolves, all 6 of them on stage now. No subs, no additional players. It's been the same 6 dominant members throughout this entire 13-week journey, and they're eyeing up that prize. They're eyeing up that first place trophy and prize, and there's only one team remaining, and that team here, the Australians themselves, Blank Esports.
And much the same. 6 players, no subs, just out and out talent, honestly, across all of these members. And like I said, this super strong team to emerge from the Oceanic region had this incredible undefeated streak. Streak? Had an undefeated streak, both in just straight up wins and also, of course, in tournament wins. That was something they started to carry into Asia Pacific as a whole. They have pushed the threshold for the local teams here, and now they're looking to kind of do the exact same in Taiwan as well. This is now the standard.
And I think they've actually done that. They absolutely have pushed up every other team in the OPC, in the APAC region as well, I gotta add, because look, Blank, they came in as the absolute favorites in the OPC from week one. Flash Wolves said it, AHQ said it, Blank were the team to beat. They were the #1 team in that initial round robin. They were the best team coming in from outside of not just Taiwan, but all of APAC. And, you know, the fact that they're here in the finals now, after having some trouble in the middle run, they're a team that has stood that test of time.
Both teams there inside of the cup. That is what is on the line. That absolutely gorgeous trophy is what these two teams are going to be playing for over this weekend. And oh, how the tables have turned in a way, because you're right, they came in, Blank being the team to beat, and that's actually changed now.
I'm going to be translating over some of the pre-match words from both the coaches. Today's actually Johnny's birthday, so I hope that we can present him with the victory as his birthday present. And if you, for all our supporters, keep supporting us, we will deliver that victory. Serenity on the other side as well. Everyone thinks Flash Wolves will win. But if Flash Wolves lose today, it will change everyone's minds. So Bacon hasn't looked his best, in my opinion. Don't forget, you still have to shake hands after that. And don't walk away just yet.
Ooh, brutal. Serenity just drops the mic and walks off. I'll be honest, they came into this whole playoffs with a similar kind of confidence. He had similar thoughts about AHQ.
Yeah.
And like I said, the tables have turned. Blank were the team to beat. It is now Flash Wolves. And in fact, after that first round robin, Flash Wolves have gone largely undefeated, aside from a loss to AHQ in the second round robin, they haven't lost a series. That's what they carry into this. In that entire time, Blank are the only team to have actually come close to beating them since. They came the closest in that final round robin. So you like to think that maybe that gap will have closed even more. Blank do look even better than they did in the round robin. Based off last weekend's performance against AHQ, they really pushed themselves even further even than AHQ were able to, even just between day 1 and day 2. But look, in that same time, Flash Wolves, they have to stay ahead of the pack. They will have been pushing themselves further. And all reports actually point to them being leaps and bounds ahead. I don't know if Blank have actually pushed it that far. I like to think they will have. I really do want an intense, a close finals. But it's so hard to say how close these teams really are.
And it does feel like tables turning, because if you want to look at the history of these two teams, not even the OPC, they met before the OPC. Now, granted, that was a different version of Flash Wolves. That was members of Flash Wolves across different Taiwanese teams, but Blank have been together for a very long time now. They had a massive win streak before coming into the OPC, undefeated in Australia for a very, very long time, and undefeated in the APAC region as well. Look, they participated in Taiwanese tournaments where they did face up against the Flash Wolves members, and they do remember that. Flash Wolves didn't forget those early losses to Blank. This is why every single Taiwanese team had the utmost respect for Blank coming into the OPC, and I want to say as well, a little bit of fear. And now that fear has started to turn, because Flash Wolves are now that team in the lead. They're the ones with that win streak, and Blank are the ones catching up.
Exactly. If Blank were the team that actually pushed this tournament forward and pushed all the other teams to improve, that team is now Flash Wolves. And like I said before, it is Blank who have to push themselves to improve. That is how this tournament has progressed. If anything, that's been the biggest shakeup in terms of this top 3.
And we'll take a look at the format as well for the playoffs. So just like last week in the semi-finals, Flash Wolves come in as the home side with the #1 seed. That means they will be home for today and day 3 if we make it there. If you're wondering what that means, it's going to be best of 7 over 3 days. You have to win 2 of the event days to get the grand final victory. And again, day 1 belongs to Blank. Sorry, day 1 belongs to Flash Wolves. Day 2, Blank will be the home side, and then Flash Wolves will be the home side again on day number 3.
And here, of course, is a quick recap of what went down in the semi-finals. Of course, it was Blank taking out AHQ. Day 1 saw AHQ picking up 2 map wins right off the top and looking very strong, but honestly, Blank struck back and didn't stop landing blows from there, picking up the next 4 wins to close out day 1. We'll get a look at day 2 in just a moment as well, but we've also been kind of saying about both the semi and, of course, now this final as well, this best of 3 of best of 7s. Look, it is a fittingly grueling finals format for what has been a fittingly grueling tournament. And here now, day 2 was a very different kettle of fish. Blank were the team that came out swinging, and AHQ were barely able to land one punch in that. It was close to a whitewash.
And it does feel like Blank continued on that win streak from day 1, and also the momentum from day 1. They got 4 map wins in a row. They continued to get another 3 map wins in a row before finally dropping Route 66, which was a risky map for them anyway, because it's a very underplayed map for Blank, a very untested map for Blank, and it just didn't work out for them. But day 2, far more convincing than day 1, and I want to sort of chalk that up to Blank needed a bit of warm-up time. They dropped the first 2 maps, which were a bit concerning, because that first map was not only their best map pick, on their best, but it was also on their best game mode as well. After that, they did bring it back in. So if we want to look at what Blank's form is now, taking that on from last weekend, they sort of had a rough start, but they're looking better. They looked better as they got along.
And one of the questions we had during that semi-final as well was how well both of the teams would turn themselves around from day 1 to day 2. That's going to be a factor in this final here as well, because it's the exact same format. And potentially there is the chance that the same will be true of the turnaround between day 2 and day 3 if we are going to go to a day 3. Here, of course, is the record between these 2 teams.
And we're going to start things off with the group stage result across 4 round robins. You can see Flash Wolves ended up first place, 25 match wins to only 3 losses. One of those was to Blank, and then Blank on the other side, 22 wins and 6 losses, 3 of which were to the Flash Wolves. And head-to-head as well, you can actually see that 3-1 is a record between these 2 teams, with the most recent 3 wins in Flash Wolves' favor.
And that's exactly what I spoke about a moment ago. The other thing is, once again, we compare this to the semi-finals. Blank and AHQ had 1 match separating them. They had only 1 or 2 map wins separating them. Their head-to-head was 2 for 2. Frankly, they looked like really evenly matched teams. Now, in the semi-final, absolutely Blank were the better of those 2. That is unequivocal. it is proven, right? It is a hard and fast fact as of last week. Does that mean, though, that Blank are now closer to Flash Wolves? It's really hard to say, right? Because that semi-finals performance would suggest they are, but that head-to-head, those raw stats, that would suggest they aren't. Questions will be answered, at least in part, today, but there's just so many questions.
Well, let's answer one thing really quickly. Who are the members? Here we go. Zonda, Bacon Jake, Jongi K. Momo,
Happy birthday.
and Realman, of course. Happy birthday. He turned 17 today.
Wow. He was only 16.
Young player.
I'm getting old, Kevin. I'm getting old. But here is Blank looking young, inspired themselves. Gunba with the gun beard in full showing. Kiki, I Eat You Up, RQT, Trill, and Ata will round out this entire squad. And we kind of mentioned as well, neither of these teams have any subs. Not saying that in kind of a negative way. It's just the structure of these two teams. But what that's meant is the improvements they've made, the changes that have happened to push these teams further and further and further, they've come from within. They've come from the players themselves. They've come from the strength of the team. It hasn't been, okay, we've got this other player in here instead, and now we're just clicking better, right? Every single improvement they've made has been iterative. There is no frills to it. There is no question of, have these guys hit a ceiling? Do they need to swap out a player to push further? We just don't know how far they'll both go, and we honestly don't even know where they're both at right now. That is what makes for exciting games.
Absolutely, and for Flash Wolves as well, coming into the OPC, they had to gel, they had to mix and match because 3 members from 2 separate teams had to come together to form this team, and they needed a bit of time to get there, to get everything together as we sort of just rolling on through the different members there as well. In the middle there, we did see Bacon Jack, who is one of the star players, as well as Zonda. So, as much as Serenity did say in the pre-match interview or the pre-match discussion there, he doesn't think Bacon Jack's looking too great. I'm thinking Bacon Jack's looking fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for a good brag, but yeah, Bacon Jack is looking phenomenal. But I tell you who else is looking phenomenal. Yeah, exactly. Is I Eat You Up, who is looking, to be frank with you, better than ever. Did RQT get a haircut?
That happens, I guess.
It actually doesn't look like it. It's just a tucked away nightly.
Well, Trill did get it. Trill did get a haircut, and
got a trim.
Yeah. Might be shaving this game a little bit close as well. We'll have to sort of see how that one goes.
Well, I'll tell you what hasn't been shaved is the gun beard. I've noticed actually their results have directly correlated with the length and bushiness of Gunba's beard. And he hasn't shaved it for a good number of weeks now, so it's actually even longer and even thicker than it was in the semifinals.
I'm waiting for the celebration. Yeah. I'm waiting for the celebration shave when it's like we've won, or it's all over. No matter what happens, it's the OPC's done.
The beard is gone.
It's like this is what 13 weeks looks like, and now we're back to normal. I don't know.
Reset button.
I don't know. Or it's like, do I just hold down to the World Cup? Who knows?
You wonder.
He might do that as well. But I actually do want to speak to a little bit about when we talk about. We did see those stats, the head-to-head stats between the two teams, and what's interesting about that, something I didn't really mention before, is all the wins that Blank got were in that first round robin. So I'm not just talking about, they won that match, but I'm talking about maps. So all the map wins, the 3 map wins they got in that initial round robin, Blank have not taken a single map off of Flash Wolves now for the most recent 3 meetings the teams have had, which is a scary thought.
And when you look at the numbers as well, what that actually means in the more direct sense, that first win was a 3-1 in favor of Blank. Look, sure, cool, good, they picked up a win, and it was a really strong showing. That was their undefeated round robin. I believe they had the same result against AHQ. They had that 3-1 result against a lot of teams, in fact, and then a 3-0 result against a lot of teams as well. Flash Wolves, in the next 3 wins, the ones they picked up, they were all 3-0, without fail. Sure, the most recent one was the closest they came in terms of how the maps played out, but it was still Flash Wolves winning.
Let's take a look at some stats here. Nepal being picked up by Flash Wolves, and so far it's actually, Blank have definitely, I think I just caught it at the end there, was it a 2-0, I wondered? Was at least a 1-0, I think.
So this is quite interesting because I would actually say Blank are quite strong with Nepal, to be completely fair to them. But also in that kind of downswing they had between round robins 2 and 3, within both, they played both AHQ and Flash Wolves. AHQ certainly took them to Nepal on both of those occasions, and I believe Flash Wolves did as well. That's actually where that 2-0 comes from. So it's a bit of a confusing stat because look, on paper, it actually does look like Flash Wolves' win rate is just straight up higher. The head-to-head favors Flash Wolves. but that was at Blank's weakest, absolute weakest in the tournament, unequivocally. They're now stronger even than they were in that first round robin. I feel like that should go without saying, but I don't know that that head-to-head really speaks to much of where these two teams are at. The only thing that really will determine it is what the result of Nepal is here and now.
And it is, of course, Flashwell's pick as well. If you're sort of wondering what the home and away kind of means here, home essentially allows you to get the map picks 1, 3, 5, and 7, and away gets you the other map picks in there, which is 2, 4, and 6. So if you're on the home side, naturally you're going to get more map picks than the away side, and also the picking side, whether you're on home or away, you will get to pick the starting sides as well. So for Flashwells, having the home advantage here, getting the 4 map picks in, especially getting control, which is still Blank's best game mode, you get to dictate now what the map on Blank's best game mode is, which is something very strong for Flashwells to take in.
And naturally, you would take them to somewhere you have a 2-0 record against them, and also just quickly, of course, that home and away advantage applies to the finals as a whole. This best of 3 of best of 7s, Flashwells have that home side. So that means they get home side on day 1, Blank get it on day 2, and then if we go to a game 3, Flashwells do get it again. That really adds up, but here, let's see what the first number of the equation is going to look like.
Absolutely, we're about to kick it off now. Map 1 of the grand finals. Here it is, Flashwells and Blank. It all comes down.
And completely matched lineups out of both these teams. In fact, this is like a really pleasing array. They are completely matched, but in any case, we are going to get all of those matchups we were kind of thinking about. Bacon Jack can eat you up. ATAR taking a bit of hurt, but they're getting the trade backs. Bacon Jack really got the hurt on as well, but he needs to be careful where he positions. Right now, though, Flashwells do have a lot of the precedence here, kind of forcing Blank back a little bit, trying to get these flanks in, but no picks either way just yet.
And no team's actually committed here. Both teams are sort of just feeling each other out, but Flashwells do pull it here. They're not just talking about the kill. Yeah, they got the kill into RQT, but actually they got the positioning as well, and that's extremely important, and they're going to secure more kills off the back.
Yeah, and that means the rest of the open out will happen. Actually, for Zonda to kind of thread the needle there and catch RQT was potentially a little unexpected, and what that means is actually Blank were playing incredibly well, holding their own. They weren't letting the tanks die, but they also, like you said, weren't actually contesting the ground. It really did just kind of feel like a matter of time until Flashwells overcame Blank.
And both teams respecting each other a lot, because you saw sort of in the distance here, both Traces went the same route, both the other 5 members as well tried to face off on that high ground, but eventually Flashwells, they pushed up and Blank never pulled the trigger. They got dived upon and Zonda cleaned up the kills.
I almost do feel like they were waiting for that Tracer 1v1 to resolve itself, but to be honest with you, 2 good Tracers aren't ever going to let that 1v1 resolve. They're going to try and harass each other and harass other backliners, but here we go, Blank making their aggressive move onto the side, and as it happens, the 1v1 resolves itself. Zonda picking up RQT though on the back end as the dive has kind of gone in anyway, so despite a good opening move, Blank weren't actually set up and up on the point, and Flashwells catch them as they make the move and completely wipe them.
I actually saw Hanamura on the high ground still. Hanamura never let go of that high ground position for that entire engagement, even with Blank flooding back in, even with Blank setting up for their next push. Hanamura held his ground, Matrix came out, managed to secure the good area control, forcing Blank only onto the lower ground, and Blank never had the option to really engage. Yeah, Eat-Up got his kill, but no one else did.
And just look at the tightness of these two teams, by the way, in terms of the cooldowns coming up and available right now. They're pretty much all going to get the same ults at roughly the same time. Flashwells have got them slightly earlier, but here's the opening strike by Blank. They go aggressive with the sound barrier, catch themselves the pick as well, and this is their opportunity to swing the ult economy in their favor. They want to draw out ults, but still win the fight. It is a tough ask, but they've got the ground now, catching Bacon Jack, trying to get a trade back onto ATAR here, and it isn't going to work.
Really want to win here.
They get a whole chunk of them, actually. Blank just kind of a little bit too deep, went into disarray. Good strike back by Kiki, can keep this one alive as Jongi is going to be forced to back off, but Trill, his ultimate has long since run out. And the only person they're going to be able to keep alive is Eat You Up, who had just died. He is on his way back to this fight, but they haven't fought on the point. They haven't got the cap through, and they don't actually have the members yet either.
And what's really interesting is Realment went down super early in that fight. He didn't get to use Sound Barrier. Sinclair immediately got the Transcendence out. That kept Flashwells in the game, but it was a 5 versus 6. Blank were trying to get this around. They tried to collapse onto Flashwells. Eventually, Jongi, he ulted. He used a Primal Rage, got himself 2 kills. Might have been environmental kills, which kind of makes sense how quickly they happened, but Sinclair, 2 headshots, 4 kills off 2 members, completely swinging it back, and that's a fight Blank needed to not lose. They were so far ahead, now they're behind.
Yeah, absolutely was. And the interesting thing about that as well is it was at the exact right moment as well, because it was right as ATAR went in to clean up. By getting harassed, the team was just kind of left into disarray here, and now we have the resolution of that fight. Double kill out for Kiki here. Yeah, this is We're back
Oh
where we
boy.
were a moment ago. But here we go. Now jumping to life, they're trying to get themselves onto the point. Now Aita, they're actually set up as they catch K-Momo. Good opener, but they lose Gunba. They've managed to take out Jongi this time around, and Zonda finds nothing with the tactical visor. So Blank do actually hold the ground, but Flash Wolves have enough to maybe contest it if they want. Is that Kiki going down? Oh dear, missed the ledge. And that's really rough for them because now the
Cap went
respawns are
over.
going to come through for Flash Wolves. Cap did go over, but Zonda's just going to be able to get on and contest it. They're able to retake the ground they just lost, and they're able to kill Atar too.
Oh, that's
Kiki
devastating.
going down in the pit there may have just lost them this first map.
That might just be over now because 99% into the overtime. Eat up super low as well. Players still respawning, and Zonda's still picking up kills. He's still racking them up,
trickle is
and the
there.
ticker is going down.
And it was indeed Kiki accidentally taking the dive off the edge. He was looking to contest Zonda, maybe displace him or get a kill once the tac visor had run out, but he fell short, and not having that extra tank meant Blank immediately after capping had to abandon the point. Flash Wolves respawns came through in time that they could capitalize off that, and you saw as well no hesitation from Zonda, despite being the only person alive, was totally willing to go in there alone, knowing that Blank had to back off.
And I want to talk about the sort of that match as a whole, that one stage in Nepal as a whole, looked like Blank unable to pull the trigger. They weren't able to find the positioning that they were looking for. Great plays by the tanks on the Flash Wolf side to deny them that, but also for Blank, sometimes you got to be able to push the go button and find and be able to find those openings. They were never able to do that, and even when they did, even when they got their one good fight, they killed Realman off the top, blocked out the sound barrier, they still lost out to a couple of well-placed headshots from Sinkler, which was so good.
Exactly, and that's the thing, even when they did press the go button, look, it's not like they were completely inactive. They just weren't able to leverage it into anything but. That is then, this is now. Let's see if they have learned any lessons and what they're going to take moving forward. Unfortunately, losing Trill means they have to back off here. Will give Flash Wolves precedence over this point. Trying to see if they can get a return trade in, but they know they can't. They are going to go ahead and back off. Want to try and not go down here. Maybe even pick out Jongi if he's in too deep. And actually, Atar going down at the back end means the route is going to be able to come through. That is very, very unfortunate for Blank, and Flash Wolves will be able to get that cap.
Blank got to cut their losses here. They've got to try and just conserve as many lives as possible. Don't feed too many ultimates. Zonda's nearly sitting on ultimate now. Killing Bacon Jack there would have been a big deal for Blank. They could have definitely gone in off that. Now they're going to be playing it against double DPS ultimates. It's already starting to look a little bit dyke here, and it seems like the same story repeating itself. Blank do not ever get better positioning than Flash Wolves. Flash Wolves are very aggressively taking that ground off Blank, and then Blank never find the position to actually engage, and we're also waiting now for Kiki's mech.
I saw the exact same thing the last time these teams met, and the way I put it is, look, Blank are good, they're not playing badly, but Flash Wolves are just playing a little bit better. The margins are just a little bit tighter. It's the extra 5% applied everywhere results in
That's
an
5%
absolute
right
victory,
there.
and that exactly is that 5%. It's the difference between your Winston going down and theirs not. And then now it's the difference with not being able to get the trade back.
The thing here is, at least both traces are hitting mark for mark. They're very even here. Both of their traces are exactly, I would say, they both kill each other. They're just as good. So for Blank, the problems are somewhere else. Now comes the sound barrier. This is going to be Blank now committing.
They're trying to get aggressive. Flash Wolves committing their own as well, and these Traces having a wild old time off to the side. Eat You Up is going to be able to just barely get out, but that means he's a long way away from the fight. Atar's getting pressured off to the side here by Jongi, and they're
Nice
just getting
bubble.
nothing good self-destruct, but Bacon Jack has already struck it back and taken out the D-Mech Diva, and Flash Wolves, they still have total control over this fight. Every time Blank are about to make a move, Flash Wolves preempt it and ensure it misfires.
The only thing that they're really getting ahead of Flash Wolves is, in fact, I'm not going to say ahead, but even with Flash Wolves, it's back to the traces. Even then, Bacon Jackie was able to manage to get the kill with assistance from Zonda. When we look at the rest of the team, this is where the big difference is. Zonda, when you see it from his perspective versus Atar's perspective, you look at what Atar's doing, always pressured up by the tanks. K-Momo's there, Jongi's there. With Zonda, he's having a ball right now because nothing is pressuring him.
Different kind of move here. They're looking to go aggressive onto this Tracer, trying to turn that 1v1 into about a 3v1, which means Jongi's going to come around the side, try and harass out Gunbat, and it is completely going to work. Leaves Atar exposed on the front side. No one's able to really protect anyone in particular. Blanket completely exposed, now getting picked apart by Flash Wolves. Kiki throwing the mech onto the point will at least get Zonda, but they can't really strike on top of that anyway. Trill is getting damaged as the ultimate runs. Yeah, Eat You Up wasn't even able to get back in the fight, was too low and was unable to retreat. Maybe, yeah, going to get Bacon Jack. They're going to try and prolong this one anyway with the sound barrier. I don't even know if they had the members though, because they're not actually getting picks. And look, these are not the members you really want to try and win a fight with. They're still going down to Bacon Jack, who is still unopposed. And Blank, they're not getting kills through with the likes of RQT and Trill. And that's just not the members that are meant to do that. You lose the DPS, you lose the fight.
And it seems like for Blank, every time they manage to get the cap over, it is in those final moments. It is when Flash Wolves hit that 99%. As you're about to go into overtime, suddenly Blank are able to flip it over. Now, they need to be able to find that groove and find those moments a lot earlier on. If you're just getting in the overtime, the game is nearly over. I mean, you're barely holding on at that point, and they're not winning considerably in those final moments too. It's like they were able to collect enough members, force Flash Wolves off the point, then get the cap over, but they couldn't actually secure the fight itself, and Flash Wolves were always able to reinforce, always able to come back and overpower Blank. So at the end of the day, it even seems like when Flash Wolves lose, it's still in their control. They're losing in a controlled manner where here we're going to drop a couple members, but we're not going to drop too much. Yes, you get the cap, but we always have options to take it back off you.
Exactly, and a lot of it is just holding the ground as best as possible. They're going to make Blank fight for every single millimeter, and honestly, Blank just don't have the manpower to do that. It's that 5%. It is that tight margin, and now let's see if Blank can eat it out. Oh dear. Not able to catch the first kill. There's on the great target selection there. Good pressure on Jongi though, who's actually a little bit caught off to the side, but he's able to get himself to a health pack. That is a very important trade though, taking Bacon Jack, because they will actually get a respawn on EDU up, who will be able to rejoin the fight, and this may just give Blank the ground they need now. Going to look to try and collapse in on the side on the rest of the members.
The jump got butchered.
Able to sneak the cap through here. Now Trill is a little bit too deep on his own. They finally catch Sinclair, able to get deep on that and get K-Momo's mech, and despite having a bit of trouble attacking onto it, yes, they had to fight for every millimeter, but this time they actually captured those millimeters, and they captured the point as well with only 11% over the Flash Wolves.
This is a much better start from Blank, and I think it all comes down to killing Bacon Jack when they did, because yeah, Eat-Up went down. When Flash Wolves pulled the trigger, they weren't able to get any further kills. In fact, Blank was able to punish because, like you said, Eat-Up respawns faster. They were able to go for the 6v5 play. That's how they got ahead. Even though Trill butchered his jump, he whiffed it entirely. Blank still managed to take it. They got the position they were looking for finally.
Exactly, and the catch onto Sinclair on the backside was the more important one anyway. Only able to do it because they'd pressured Jongi, and he had to retreat to the health pack. Now, Zonda trying to force them onto the point here using K-Momo as well as leverage for that. Means Blank have to attack onto it, but they're kind of happy to do that, just biding their time, holding the ground, and now, yes, they absolutely force Flash Wolves back off the point, but they need to not get flanked. Sound Barrier does save Gunbear and EDU up. That gives them time as they catch Bacon Jack, very important for them. But the pressure is unrelenting, and it's going to force out the second defensive ultimate. Flash will still have a transcendence of their own that they can commit here. Blank aren't actually converting kills. Zonda opens up now, and there's no defensive ults left. That leaves Gunbear exposed. ATAR also trying to open up. EDU up is pressured off to the side, and they lose Kiki's mech. Still no response. The Transcendence is at least gone out of Flash Wolves, and Blank can try and leverage that, but they don't really have any aggressive ults themselves. They're now just kind of stalling the point. Flash Wolves have held on to more resources anyway. Now they're converting kills through anyway, and I don't even know where the members of Blank are. They're not actually taking this fight to Flash Wolves.
They're going to try and
letting
stall.
them have it.
They're going to try and stall here because that's all they have to hold on to. Trill taken down after ulting goes on. Now all the members go down. Blank lost considerably in the ultimate economy there. They used both defensive ultimates, couldn't secure a kill off that whatsoever. Flash Wolves waited. They were very patient. They committed Sinclair's ultimate when ATAR also tag visored, and then after both defensive ultimates from Blank were gone, Zonda went and used a tag visor himself, managed to get the cleanup on Blank, and Blank used all their options available and got nothing out of it.
And there's that window, if you are the first team to use the Transcendence, there is that window where you must convert kills or you are just behind. And now they're going to have to try and get aggressive again. They won't even get their Transcendence sooner than Sinclair will, but yes, K-Momo low, that's crucial. Ooh, just going wide on Gunbear there. The Pulse Bomb connects though, and Sinclair takes out Eat You Up, and already the fight cracked open for Flash Wolves. Blank unable to close out those last few kills and now get completely cleaned up and routed.
These are heavy losses. The gong should sound at any moment. 6 kills, a lot of ult charge now for Flash Wolves. Blank had an advantage. They did come in with more ults than Flash Wolves did. Even though they play the ultimate economy quite poorly in their previous engagement, now that has evened up as well. So they had an advantage that is no longer that they have anymore. The only thing they can work with here is, I mean, a little bit of time. At 30%, this is probably their last fight.
It probably is. They at least have something to go off with it, and they're looking for that Transcendence as well if they can. That's a very aggressive sound barrier, but they've picked Realman. It is worthwhile. They're onto the point now. Sigma's the only defensive ultimate there. Good pulse bomb goes in, but it doesn't get eaten. Yes, but it's forced out the Transcendence, and they still have resources, unable to keep Kiki alive, unfortunately, and Zonda is putting down good pressure. Atar finally catching Bacon Jack as Zonda's found nothing with his own visor, and now they're able to close it out. Gunba, don't know if that was quite a necessary Transcendence, but he was trying to preserve his team so they could maybe hold on to about 90%. They need to maybe get some trickle kills here through as well. I expect aggressive positioning because they need to push this all the way up to 99 right now.
This is one of the few times where I feel like Flash Wolves may have held on and been a little bit too patient here, because Flash Wolves were expecting to be able to win that last fight without committing too much. Realman saved his sound barrier there. He probably should have committed if Flash Wolves really wanted to secure that fight, because Blank, no holds barred, they used everything they had and they managed to get that fight win. Now for Flash Wolves, we are into the overtime. They got a little bit more
Bacon Jack hunting for the backline is, oh, great turnaround by Atar straight onto him, and he picks up Jongi as well, and suddenly the picks have come through in favor of Blank. Now Atar's uncontested, they can't get onto the point, and all those ultimates Flash Wolves had in their favor actually don't matter. The route is through. It all came down to the one flight, and this is the first time today Flash Wolves have mis-executed. Blank didn't miss a beat, and they start to turn the tide.
And what I liked about Blank just then was their ability to punish plays from Flash Wolves. They were able to see, look, Flash Wolves may not have played the situation at their most optimal. We can and we will be able to play. Look, Blank still look a little bit desperate there. They have to completely blow up the Blank. They had to make that full withdrawal to get that fight win. But for Flash Wolves, a little bit of, I want to even say, potential overconfidence there, where they said, look, we don't need to really contest this that much. Maybe we can win with the less committed here. We can get a really big victory. They probably should have played that a little bit safer and actually considered and respected Blank's ability to get in there and actually get that win.
I mean, the only thing Blank had to go on was an ultimate out of Trill. Like, just on paper, Flash Wolves had everything they needed to win the fight, and even the defense matrix was down. Pulse Bomb could have been uncontested, but once again, that was then. This is now, yeah, good start once again, but can't get top.
Bad positioning.
There's the aggressive dive in though from Trill. They're not going to give up this ground quite so easily this time, trying to deal with Bacon Jack, but he is not really being handled off to the side here. The dive goes in again from Trill. He needs to be careful to not get surrounded. Don't quite catch Gunba, and this is trying to get the surround on Trill as they haven't really converted any kills themselves. There it is. And going deep to not find anything leaves Blank exposed. They're still desperately trying to close out on either Singler or Zonda, but now it's just eat you up, getting overextended and getting picked up. Now the healers are exposed. They go aggressive. They're going to get the wipe here. They're going to absolutely rout Blank.
This is what I'm talking about with Blank in terms of positioning. They always feel like the team that are a little bit too cautious. They never trade Flash Wolves blow for blow. They never throw that punch, and they get punched in the face first. But for Flash Wolves, you see how dominant they are, immediately forcing off that high ground. And Blank, they just give it up. They immediately retreat down the stairs. They sit on the floor there. And for Flash Wolves, it's all about looking, well, we've backed Blank into a corner. Now it's time to go for the throat.
And I'm amazed that no one dealt with Bacon Jack. They knew where he was even. It's like no one went, look, let's try and pressure him out a little bit so that Trill's dive is safer.
Here's the thing, is you can't actually commit anyone to that, because you would have to commit one of the tanks, and you have to focus on that front line. So focusing on the front line is exactly where Blank needed to.
Oh, that's a great stick, but unfortunately the sound barrier keeps Realman alive. The open up now out of Zonda as they've already lost Trill in the aggressive dive. It's going to catch Kiki's mech with it, and the wipe comes out. Blank committing 2 of their few ultimates there, and Flash Wolves committing as many themselves.
Yeah, so this is the kind of economical play that Flash Wolves were looking for, able to just use a couple of ultimates and then let the rest of the teammates do the working and do the talking, essentially, without committing anything else. Flash Wolves majorly ahead now, already more than 50%. Something I noticed about this series in particular versus other series that we've seen is very little fights in terms of quantity based on the amount of progress.
Looking to get aggressive now. This time around, they have their own tactical visor, and that's going to be what they need, but already the pressure onto Jongi forces out Gunba's Transcendence. Oh, good catch onto Bacon Jack, and that can open out the space as they close out Zonda as well. Looking to get aggressive to close out on Realman as well will indeed pay off. They're going to just hidey-ho for a second while K-Momo throws out the self-destruct, and oh, Jongi actually gets a strike back, gets Atar as well. Jongi looking to save the day here, and the zoning from K-Momo's self-destruct gave them the space to do that. Now it's all down to eat you up to try and contest these few members of Flash Wolves, but the members of Flash Wolves going to give this one respect. Had backed off for a moment. Now actually committing a little bit too late. Pulse Bomb is committed there. Catches Zonda. That's a very good pick for them, actually. Better even than catching K-Momo's mech, really, as now they're going to be able to hold on to this point and get the members back on it, and maybe even get some ultimates up as well as they close out on Bacon Jack. Suddenly Blank giving themselves a huge gasp of air.
It's the second time now Blank able to be able to turn around a poor situation and look for mistakes and look for holes in Flashwolves' gameplay and look for Flashwolves. They wanted to try and get the recontest in there a little bit too late. They went and dipped one toe into the water, decided, look, it's too cold, I'm not going to go in there, backed off, the cap went over, but the aggression was already on for Blank. Because Flashwolves didn't actually commit to backing off, they lost members for it.
Again, now Bacon Jack going in for this gentleman's duel, has to give it respect though, takes the healing. Now he's the one putting the pressure on to eat you up. This is going to force the team onto the point, but having lost Jongi, he knows that's not a safe plan, has to back off
nice
himself,
convert.
and they catch Realman as well. That's really good news for them. Now Blank may actually be able to even up the score a little bit off this.
Yeah, Blank need about another 2 fights here, and there haven't been a lot of fights. We're getting about 4 fights per 100%, so every 25% we're looking at about 1 fight. So we're going to see something happen roughly around, I would say, the 70% mark for Flashwolves. Maybe they're coming even a little bit earlier, but they are taking their time.
Same kind of ruse here. Bacon Jack's going to try and force the team to commit to the point, but honestly, Blank are just going to commit to the team. They don't really need to worry about Bacon Jack just yet. He's busy trying to deal with Eat You Up as they get the members in now. Unfortunately, losing Trill, though, who had committed the ultimate as well, and they had the zoning as well. Zonda opening up with the attack visor, finds Kiki. That's a good start, as all they've got in response has been Eat You had been Realman, now Eat You Up going down is what's happened.
Blank got to die fast here if they got to die.
They're just going to die though, and the point has already been capped over. They haven't really backed off. They haven't finished committing either. They're not sure what they want to do, but they are losing members, and this is sloppy out of Blank with the cap already gone over. They weren't getting kills in response anyway. They'd lost the crucial members, and now it's going to be last ditch out of Eat You Up. He's going to catch Realman again, but I don't know if they have the members here. K-Momo's still got a self-destruct that's going to force the team off. They're still catching the tanks as they trickle in. They have no more DPS here anyway. No one's going to be able to touch this point. Flashwolves are going to pick up the 3-1, and Blank make a crucial set of blunders in that final fight.
I gotta agree with that, especially right at the end there. I said they needed to decide, are we going to back out here or are we going to commit? And they kind of, I think they should have backed out. They actually committed. They used the Transcendence. They used the Tactical Visor. They lost members super early. If you're going to lose members that early, at about 85%, as soon as the cap goes over, you're now desperately rushing to catch that overtime, or else you're not going to get the overtime at all. That's exactly what happened right at the end, but they had no members left. So if they wanted to back out, even if you have the Transcendence to back out, regroup with 6, then you have a strong ability to come back with 6 and maybe contest. Because they didn't do that, they lost everyone. Kiki respawned, he went for the overtime, he died as well, and then the cap went over and Flashwolves take the win. So
yeah, very unfortunate way for that final fight to kind of pan out. I do want to say though, I feel like that was the only major mistake Blank actually made, all things considered. Look, there are a couple of small things here and there, but they weren't mistakes as much as they were, minor errors. They were, small little tactical things. It wasn't really major, and on the whole, I actually feel Flashwolves made a lot more mistakes and are continuing to make a lot more mistakes. The way this matchup is kind of looking based off that, when both teams play clean, Flashwolves are the better team, but Flashwolves are making more mistakes. The thing is, they're difficult mistakes to capitalize on. Sometimes Blank do seem to be.
I do not think Flashwolves are making more mistakes at all. Blank are making clearly an abundantly more amount of mistakes. And when I'm talking about mistakes, I'm thinking stuff that they're doing that is not optimal. Now for Flashwolves, their mistakes have kind of been in the realm of we are a little bit too confident here, or we're assuming that we can win by a bigger margin, therefore we're not giving Blank enough respect in this specific situation, and so we're going to choose to not commit things that maybe we should. We're going to choose to save certain things. We're going to choose to play in a certain way where we're expecting to win in a bigger way than we do, and that has been sort of working out for Flashwolves earlier on, and then towards the end, Blank were able to capitalize and they were able to punish a couple of times, and that's when Blank did quite well. But Blank overall, look, in general, the sort of things that they were doing when they did make mistakes, they were definitely a lot bigger blunders that Flashwolves were able to capitalize on. So even if we're talking about had Flashwolves made more minor mistakes, maybe they had a few more minor mistakes, I don't know. I'm going to say I didn't catch that. I think Flashwolves played extremely clean for the most part. Blank weren't able to capitalize on the majority of things that Flashwolves were doing.
The way it's kind of looking, the reason I kind of say what I say there is the way it's kind of looking is like Blank's mistakes right now, it's like a structural weakness, it's like a poorly built strut or something, and when it breaks, it's internal and something, the Blank building collapses, and it's on Blank's side that's happening. It's not necessarily Flashwolves capitalizing. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are, but they're not an active proponent in that capitalization. They're just going for a fight like any team would. And you feel like, you know, AHQ would be capitalizing in that same regard. When Blank are making mistakes, it's more like a chink in the armor. Actually, sorry, when Flashfulls are making mistakes, I mean, it's more like a chink in the armor than a structural issue like it is with Blank. So the onus is on Blank to capitalize there. And the thing is, when they are picking apart Flashfulls. So that's more what I mean when I say that is, Flashfulls are making the capitalizable mistakes where if Blank jumps onto them, they are actually picking them apart. Those can be deadlier, but having those same structural issues, you know, to kind of run with that metaphor, the structural integrity issues that Blank are having means you're more likely to just straight up crumble, and you're completely right. That's what's happening. They're making more kind of glaring errors, if you will, but not necessarily exposing weaknesses.
So when we really, when we look at, in terms of how hard the teams punish each other, when Blank really, you know, were on the back foot there, wasn't uncommon to see 5 kills, wasn't uncommon to see an entire team wipe. We're going to bring up a replay here as well. It's going to be the opening on Sanctum, and this, I really want everyone to sort of pay attention to positioning a little bit here, because eventually K-Momo sort of set the standard in terms of positioning right at the top there, and Zonda got the kills on the back line. Now, Blank tried to get the re-entry, and Zonda was able to get the kills as Blank were trying to get the re-entry. Something we didn't catch in the specific replay was right before the start, how teams were positioned. Flashfulls were already on the high ground, and Blank were already on the low ground, trying to push back onto the high ground. Now, when Blank tried to push up on the high ground, they're pushing into a defended territory, where Zonda was able to punish and get those 2 kills.
And I kind of want to appreciate something as well in Bacon Jack's play here. Look, this isn't too uncommon for Tracers to do, don't get me wrong, but you know, let's take, for example, a map like Lijiang Night Market. Often you see the teams fight for the point, and the Tracers kind of battle each other out because they're trying to get access to the enemy team's backline by getting around the point. What we're seeing here on Nepal, especially on Sanctum there, is the teams don't fight on the point itself. They look to take the ground, which means the Tracers, the skirmish they have off to the side, tends to happen in either other corridors or potentially on the point itself. And Bacon Jack's been making great use of that. We saw him do it as well on Village, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see it here. He was forcing Eat You Up onto the point itself, and often by extension forcing Blank onto the point. And just a small thing that kind of forced Blank's hand, not in this huge holistic way, but opting to fight there instead of in other areas, basically other places that Tracers kind of have those duels, has actually given Flashfulls more leverage in where they can force Blank to go.
Actually, see at the start there, this is Bacon Jack picking up a number of kills at the back of that Village play, but if you sort of notice right off the bat, Blank backed themselves into the corner before Trill went for the jump in. Now, he made a solo jump in, dropped the bubble quite quickly to protect himself, but the follow-up from Blank was quite disconnected. Trill made a play, the rest of Blank was still onto the low ground, and it seemed like a more of a desperation play, like we got to do something, we got to just go in. And there was a level of disconnect. Eventually, Blank would just push back anyway. They made a bit of a token commitment, but they got caught back in the room. And you know, for Zonda and the crew, they just went for cleanup mode again. And Bacon Jack uncontested around the side. No one could really touch him, so he was just playing. He was just playing the battlefield exactly how he needed to play it. So, I think the biggest issue for Blank, at least to start things off with, is positionally they always get pushed out by Flashfulls right off the top.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, part of it is just straight up, Flashfulls are giving themselves more options. And then they're assessing the situation. They're reading these games really, really well. And they're going, okay, how are we going to pressure Blank? Where are we going to force them to go? What are we going to try and make them do that we then pick apart? How are we going to give ourselves the opening? They are kind of being the proactive party, if you will, in every single one of these fights. To be fair to Blank, I kind of want to touch on this a little bit, not too much because it's very, very circumstantial evidence, if you will. As much as last weekend, the control map at Win the Wave HQ, it was a lot closer than this one, right? As much as it was a lot closer, when Blank were losing the fights, they were making a lot of the same mistakes that they were making just there. So maybe we will have a similar thing where they kind of turn it around from here. It's really hard to say, but that is one thing kind of in Blank's defense, not in their favor, but in their defense.
Well, we're going to get into the next replay now. This is going to be the first Sanctum, and should be getting a counter trade. So you actually see this is when Blank have a really good engagement where they sort of do punish the aggression coming out from Flashfulls and maybe a little bit of disrespect as well. They lost Eat You Up very quickly, and then almost immediately when Flashfulls decide to pull the trigger, they manage to get the return kill onto Bacon Jack, and you see, like we sort of mentioned in the cast here, but Eat Up reinforces so much quicker than Bacon Jack because he died earlier, and they were able to leverage that 6v5.
Yeah, exactly. And part of it as well that happened right off the top was the way they were able to get the kill onto Eat You Up was they went for a dive, right? And then in the retreat from that dive, they had to be a little bit split. They were able to preserve their lives. That's important, don't get me wrong. But it meant they lost the positioning that they had from that fight that would have otherwise just been a gain. And when you have the positioning and you have a 6v5, it can't be contested. But that's why Blank were willing to contest. Just for those who are sort of wondering, oh, okay, why would you go for a 5 versus 6? Well, that's exactly why. It was because of how they reacted to the dive itself.
We're about to get into the next map very soon, and that's all going to happen after a very short break. And for Blank, they're already one map down. Flash Wolves already looking fantastic on Blank's best game mode. When we come back, it's going to be hybrid, and we'll find out what it is right after this. Welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship Grand Final. Flash Wolves taking on Blank Esports, and so far, Flash Wolves looking pretty dominant. 1-0 is the scoreline to start things off with, and specifically on Nepal, it was a 3-1 victory.
It was a 3-1 victory. The one from Blank did actually look quite good. I will completely give them that, but the 3 for Flash Wolves, they looked equally good, if not better, to be completely frank, and the numbers speak for themselves. Moving forward, though, look, that was Flash Wolves' pick. As much as Blank are very strong on control, look, so are Flash Wolves. Actually, if you look at the records of both of those teams on control, disregarding even the head-to-head, they're both actually quite similar. Hybrid, though, bit of a different kettle of fish. Feels like it sits in a similar space as control. Could go either way, but this time it's Blank's pick.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, as far as we say control is Blank's best game mode, it is in the context of, for their team in their vacuum, absolutely is their best game mode. When you compare it to Flash Wolves are no slouches on control either. So obviously, Flash Wolves take it up to Blank. They match the level and even raise it, you know, a bar above, maybe even 2 bars above. Now with control out of the way, we're not going to see control until map number 6. And to get to map number 6, well, Blank got to win a few maps here, and they're going to have to start with hybrid, because if they don't get the hybrid here, I'm not expecting them to get the assault, and if they're not going to get the assault, suddenly they're 3 maps down and looking at a defeat on day 1.
Exactly, and that would be really rough. We were even saying, just between us before this, it really does feel like whichever team was going to strike first on that control was going to set themselves up really nicely. Now look, that tends to be true anyway in any best of. You know, you always want to be the team that gets that first point on the board, because then you are the team, first of all, in the lead, and you are the team that doesn't have the pressure on you. It puts the pressure on the other team. But in the particular context, the way that the map picks fall and the game modes, it wasn't necessarily a must-win for Blank, but it really did feel like whoever took that was well and truly favored throughout the rest of the series. But now, if Blank can actually even up right here, that gets thrown out the window. We're in a completely different kind of ball court, I suppose. And from there, it's anyone's series.
And actually, Kings Row is interesting because both teams have a very good win rate on Kings Row.
Yeah.
Very high there. You saw an 80-something and a 70-something%. Both teams have had fantastic runs all together on Kings Row. And I actually don't believe the two teams have played each other very much on Kings Row at all. And I want to speak to, you know, Kings Row aside for 1 second here, because across the entire sort of playoff and grand final series this weekend, I think Blank need to be able to prove that they can beat Flash Wolves on their home day, because even if Blank win on their own home day, they got to come back to day 3, which is again Flash Wolves' home day.
Exactly.
And if Blank can't do it today, they're going to struggle on day 3.
Yeah. Suddenly, again, look, the pressure would still be on them to kind of push the bar up at some point. I will say once again, look, this does actually still feel like 2 quite close teams. In a way, this feels a bit like AHQ versus Blank day 1. The control, look, it has gone a little bit differently. We saw a lot of 99-99 in that particular one with Blank versus AHQ, but certainly in terms of the relative power level of these 2 teams. And of course, what happens over this really long best of 3 of best of 7s is actually the teams constantly nudge each other just a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And what we saw in the Blank AHQ was Blank kind of got nudged a little bit further forward, and then we're able to just kind of stay ahead and constantly nudge themselves further and further and further. It's hard to say which way that's still going to fall, but there's still plenty of room for it to fall the way of Blank or the way of Flash Wolves.
And I kind of want to speak to that as well, because, you know, something Blank have displayed last week and also just now tonight, even in one map, is across the Nepal series, they got better as the series went onwards. And look, in the first couple of maps, in the first couple of stages, it was very tough. They couldn't really get anything done. In the second couple of stages, that's when they were able to poke holes into Flash Wolves, able to find openings and able to get themselves in there.
That felt very reflective of those two characters, by the way. Just Reaper dead, eyeballing, just barreling.
Diva's still waiting to get mech back as well.
Diva's just like
Diva out on mech.
Yeah, waiting to get mech back, and like while she's waiting, she's just gonna like check Twitter, you know, like, pull out the phone, check Twitter while we're waiting to get the mech back. I think that's completely fair. But you raised an interesting point there, and I suppose it was going to be the tone of this finals no matter what, but the onus certainly is on Blank to step up to Flash Wolves' level. We're still not quite sure whether they've done that. They're certainly closer than they've ever been before, though.
And I think for Blank as well, because they showed last weekend their ability to sort of adapt partway through a series and really start to find their stride, I still believe there is that room for Blank to find their stride in this series. They just got to do that before it's too late, because as soon as they start staring down the barrel of a 3-0, that 3-0 will very suddenly become a 4-0. I know that Blank have technically been doing fairly well in Escort, but I also think in terms of your team's morale, as soon as you're staring down the barrel of a loss and you're already 3 maps down and you know Flash Wolves are on match point, it becomes difficult to get yourselves back into the game, even mentally for Blank.
And that's exactly what happened to AHQ last weekend in that second day, is they were the ones 3-0 down. They finally struck back on Escort, but the margin is so tight, they only had to lose 1 map, and that's exactly what happened. It happened immediately after that as well. Blank going to opt into first defense here. This doesn't surprise me too much. So now let's see how Flash Wolves come out swinging here, and if they can set themselves up in that 2-0, or whether this is evenable for Blank.
I think Blank needs a very good performance here. We're not going to see a control situation where, you know, head-to-head, Blank and Flash Wolves doing the same thing. Blank just always 1 step behind. We're going to see it now in a very different sort of context. How are Blank going to hold on to their defensive positioning, and how aggressive and how much respect a Flash was going to give?
Edu up getting a little bit zoned off there, and it is going to mean they have to cede a bit of this high ground to Zonda, but they are going to come up against AVRL and Gunba. Let's see how this one pans out, because this is the crucial one. Asleep could swing this, but they're going to abandon the high ground very, very quickly. They do catch Realman, and they're trying to convert on more, trying to split up Flash Wolves. It may just work.
They have split them up, but they have to be able to clean up some kills here. Either they kill Realman or whoever's respawning, or they're able to capitalize on the 6v5 on the front lines. They've got to choose one and get some kills.
That's the way to go. They do catch Sinclair, now pressuring Bacon Jack. Zonda is still set up on this high ground though, so if they don't actually convert these kills quickly, they can't go up and contest him. They lose Edu up, which is very bad news. Catching K-Momo's mech though is a good stroke of luck, if you will, and Gunba just barely keeping himself alive through that. They need to get a few more than this, because again, Zonda is actually still uncontested in that high corridor, finally converting onto Jongi, but these are even trades. Eventually this is going to start to swing the way of Flash Wolves just for sheer respawns, and now they're getting kills through anyway. Blank are falling into disarray here, and Flash Wolves are going to be able to push the cap through off the back of this.
I think Blank were able to capitalize off the fact that getting the kill into Realman earlier on meant they had the 6v5 option. They abandoned high ground quite early. They didn't challenge Zonda for it. The game plan for Blank was to give it up, was to try and do a wraparound play where suddenly they become the attackers and suddenly Flash Wolves are the instead defenders. And that worked because they got an initial kill, but as soon as the 6v6 happened, they couldn't hold on.
This is interesting. They've actually given themselves time to contest. Zonda going to throw out this ultimate here, but has to hide from the self-destruct. He's able to do that, but he's not found anything with the tag visor. Now it's Trill in his face, and Atar's going to open up instead. Good Transcendence though, and Atar doesn't find anything himself. Edu up gets pressured out, as does Atar. The cap is still going to go through, but actually, Blank bled the time quite nicely and may just be able to safely retreat here as well. I say safely, never mind that.
Yeah, they're losing far too many members. The Bacon Jack's looking to clean up even more. That's already 5 down, so for Blank, because they wanted to make the aggressive defense play, they're now not going to get the opportunity to set up at the bookshop. That's going to make a big difference to their ability to defend the Streets phase section. If Flash Wolves wanted to, they can push up, get better positioning, really force Blank into, again, bad positioning, somewhere where they cannot defend well.
And that's exactly what I expect Bacon Jack to do. He actually went back to kind of reset himself a little bit and is now starting to move forward. He hasn't gone for a really aggressive pulse bomb yet, but now he's looking to get into that position. Ooh, Eat up in a bit of trouble. Quick recall out of him. But great dive onto Sinclair. That's good response. They catch the pulse bomb. That was crucial for them, but now that's kind of out of the picture. No one else from Blank down just yet. If Kiki can retreat, if they can get these members topped off, they may be alright, but that is not at all happening as the pressure is there from Flash Wolves. They just hit the go button, man. They had the tiniest little window, and they totally go for it here.
Still very
even.
Yes,
there is a trade back. It's still kind of even, but Blank have to cede so much space to stay alive that the card is moving a ton anyway.
Oh, actually, I think they might be able to hold on to the side because Atar's uncontested. He's getting kills onto the back line, and it looks like Flash was actually the ones backing out of this. So for everything that happened, nice pickup at the end, though. In fact, he didn't get the kill. He got the kill onto the mech, didn't actually secure the one onto Bacon Jack, which would have really sealed the deal.
Yeah, but at least the DMEC K-Momo is dangerous. Oh dear, right in and right out from Eat You Up. Atar on the payload itself is going to try and clean up these last few squishy members, but he's having a hard time finding closing out on Realman as the rest of these members come in, so they are again numerically favored for this fight. This is good. They've actually forced Flash Wolves into the situation where they're wanting to aggress anyway, because they were too far in to back off. And Jongi now too deep, not finding anything. Ducking in and out of this Transcendence is going to get himself topped off, but the ult will run out. Bacon Jack needs to get a big pulse bomb here, and they are able to get their members regrouping now, and the ultimates are there in favor of Flash Wolves that held on through that crucial moment here. Zoni getting pressured out, and the Transcendence keeping Blank safe. Now they strike back. That's the self-destruct to secure it, and Blank will just barely hold.
And this is one of the mistakes that we talk about when Flash Wolves really make it, is they're not respecting Blank's ability to just turn around these fights and actually win them. So for Flash Wolves, they wanted to hold on. Jongi winning with the play knowledge. He barely survived it, only by the grace of Sinclair's Transcendence coming in the final moments. And then Flash Wolves, all of these ultimates, they started chucking them out at Blank, but they were scattered. Flash Wolves were still respawning. They never took a really good fight where they were really favored in a 6v6 position. I said, look, 6v4 for Blank, this is good for them, and Flash Wolves, instead of backing off, they wanted to take that fight. Now even look, members down.
Ultimates here are relatively even in terms of charge. Big difference, Realman has his sound barrier, RQT is Aegis away, but the DPS for Blank is super close compared to Flash Wolves. And that could be all they need for this one. And that could be all they need to get the other ults up. So, here we go. Flash Wolves have to go aggressive, but they convert it in that narrow window of the sound barrier, which looked to be completely unrespected by Blank. And they're not able to use any of their own ultimates anyway. Flash Wolves are the ones who get their economy up. And Blank, it's like they just didn't read that situation at all.
It's a difficult situation to sort of be in for Blank, because they had to continue fighting there to sort of save the card, but if they didn't want to take the fight, it was a guaranteed cap, so they had to either take the loss onto the chin and try and stall it out, or just back off entirely, don't even take the fight, continue to allow Flash Wolves to have an ultimate advantage. At least Flash Wolves had to commit a lot of ultimates to actually get the card over the line. This is now a playable situation for Blank.
It is a little, but they are waiting on a few crucial ultimates. Pulse Bomb does go wide from Bacon Jack. That gives Blank a little bit of breathing space themselves. But Kiki is getting pressured along with these other tanks. That is really what they've got going for them. You up his own Pulse Bomb going wide. And Flash Wolves are still the ones keeping on the pressure. It's constantly Blank having to react to it. It does mean if Flash Wolves expose themselves, Blank will capitalize. Oh dear, Transcendence does not save Trill. And now Blank looking to have to really back off from this one. Yeah, both tech visors, but Zonda's the one converting. And again, it is Flash Wolves hitting the go button. It is Flash Wolves forcing Blank to move and react.
You see the big difference when Flash Wolves have all 6 of their members taking the 6v6 fight. They're so far ahead. They're able to get a leg up on Blank almost every single time. And now Trill, he's finding it difficult to even commit into this.
The stall. He's got the ultimate at least to do that, but Jongi has his as well to stop these respawns coming through. Pulse Bomb catches Gunbit despite the sound barrier. And now there is no sound barrier. There's no defensive ultimates for the members of Blank that are here. No one's getting anything on the side of Blank here. And you're right, Atar stuck. They pick off Trill as well. Kiki throws out the last ditch, and it doesn't catch anything. The Pilot Diva goes down. The DPS is stuck in the base. Flash Wolves push it through with 1:12 left.
A very respectable defensive time for Blank, all things considered. I mean, with 1:12, that's still a very comparable sort of result for Blank to have received right at the end there. Where Blank should have on paper had their base defense, which is on that third phase, in the third checkpoint, they actually had the worst run. They had much better runs right at the start, where you sort of said, look, they went in for that contest, which bought them a decent amount of time. I actually agree with that. It did buy them a decent amount of time. What they lost in time, though, what they gained in time, they did lose in a bit of early position, so they had to take the second Streets phase fight very far back. And I actually think, had they not tried to contest that first cap, they may have had a much better time in that Streets phase where they were most successful and really capitalize on where they had their best run.
You're completely right there. And the reality is, look, on that third point, Flash Wolves, once again, they're just a proactive team. And I have to liken this to the last time these teams met in the final round robin. It was a 3-0 for Flash Wolves. Everything did feel relatively close, but again, it was those margins. It was that extra 5%. And here it is, that extra 5% of proactivity. Blank aren't actually ever the proactive team. Look, sometimes, because they're a great team, they're able to hit back and they're able to capitalize on that. But you'd rather be the proactive team. You'd rather not win off a good, well-timed reaction. You'd rather win off a good engage.
So there have been a few times. I agree overall that Flash Wolves have been the ones setting the standard and setting the tempo of the entire game. But where Blank have, I think, made really good turnaround plays, One was capitalizing off the fact that Flashwolves misengaged the Streets phase fight. Flashwolves went in 4v6. Blank said, cool, you're going to do that, we're going to punish, and Blank have been able to punish Flashwolves on a number of occasions. The other one was they gave up the high ground to Zonda, able to pick up real men on the first cap and capitalize off and do something with it. In fact, unfortunately, they didn't do enough at the end of the day because they still lost, but it showed good initiative from Blank.
Time to read my APM.
Being completely right. Let's see now how Flashwolves react to Blank's attack. They're looking to take a pretty similar path, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see if Flashwolves kind of give up that high ground, much the same as ATAR and Gunva did last time around.
I'm expecting them not to.
Deep, oh dear, yeah, I am very much expecting them not to now, especially after that. In fact, Blank just kind of had to back off this push altogether. Don't know what quite happened on that dive there. It didn't actually look like they were set up for it. I was surprised that Trill suddenly found himself going in.
And this is the thing is, with Blank as well, something I've noticed now coming from Nepal now to Kings Row, a little bit of disconnect from Trill's engages and the rest of the team, because we looked at Nepal, he did have a couple of engages where he went ahead of the team, maybe the team wasn't quite prepared, maybe it's the team's fault actually, and the team wasn't able to follow up in time, but whatever it is, there is a disconnect between the Winston and the rest of the team, and that needs to be addressed, and that's exactly what happened, Justin with Trill dying early.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Blame is not the problem. ATAR now switching over to the Genji goes straight down. Oh dear, a second route. And again, it's like Blank aren't ever able to make a proactive move. It is Flashwolves, you said it, setting the tempo.
And the other thing is, when Flashwolves win, they're able to get these massive 5 kills, 6 kills, ring the gong. I mean, the
Look
gong,
at what it does to their ultimates.
The gong ladies work in overtime because Flashwolves are consistently getting these full team wipes. And Blank, when they do capitalize on Flashwolves making mistakes, Blank are able to get kills here and there, but they're not able to punish Flashwolves the way Flashwolves are able to just convert all of these massive team wipes.
Yeah, you're right. The gong ringer one arm is a lot stronger than the other. And this is what they need though. ATAR finally able to get something on the back line, but this is where Flashwolves' ultimate economy, the ult they were able to build up from those racks of 5 and 6 kills, is going to pay off, and already it's paying off in the form of Jongi absolutely cleaning house on the once again scattered Blank. They finally get a response kill, but it doesn't matter. The DPS is dead.
And I'll tell you something about Jongi. Consistently, he's just able to get all these kills. He just picked up 4 kills here, 2 with the Primal Rage. He's probably one of the best Primal. In fact, he just is straight up the best Winston in the OPC, but no other Winston in the OPC can consistently get these kills on Primal Rage. When we looked at Nepal, it's saying, like, he probably got a couple of environmentals. You don't get that on Kings Row. Those are just straight punches.
Once again, same push now, looking to get to the high ground with these tanks. They desperately need to dislodge Sinclair, but he's just going to go ahead and commit the nano boost. Now they have to deal with Zonda, and they just can't. The deflakes aren't enough. They're going to take the mech as well. They had a good commitment, honestly, but it was just reacted to so flawlessly. Flashwolves lost no one in that dive.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. They do bait out more and more ultimates. So for Flashwolves, they're holding onto these defenses, but it is starting to cost them. And Blank, they're able to rack up a couple of response ultimates. They're losing a bit of ultimates of their own, but with a good Dragon Blade here, things can start to really turn around. Blank are definitely, I would say, kind of taking a risk here, playing the Tracer Genji again, because it's not something they've been really playing against the other teams for the time being.
Once again, good reaction. Jongi going aggressive, cuts them off with the healer, but the hero, respawn for Gunba is quicker, so if no one else from Blade knows they have an opportunity, yes, Blade indeed. Looking to catch Zonda, but he's just getting stuck up on K-Momo instead. As EU up, loses the Tracer 1v1. H has to go into retreat. K-Momo is the self-destruct, and he even catches Kiki with it. That is devastating now, and that extra quick respawn for Gunba is not going to mean anything. Jongi has rejoined the fight anyway now, and Bacon Jack is keeping the pressure on. They're still getting all these kills through. Blank are getting nothing at all, and they're just not able to execute. Everything is getting read, it is getting reacted to, and Blank are getting picked apart.
And with only 12 seconds left, Blank used everything they had left in the bank. Pulse Bomb's gone, Dragon Blade is gone. They didn't get any kills off it in Flashwolves. They were down in ultimates. That's not the case anymore. They're back, stocked up. The supply truck came and dropped everything off they needed.
Watch out, Gunba. The Pulse Bomb is coming to get right in behind him. Indeed it is. The right clicks down, closes off on Gunba. The dive in from Jongi, the alley-oop, as it were, as they route out the rest of the members of Blank, starting with the healers. Good trade back by Eat You Up onto the Nano Visor there, but honestly, the self-destruct is all they have. They don't convert anything off it, and unless ATAR or Eat You Up pulls a hero play here, this is as good as done. It's all on Eat You Up, and he can't really get the damage down in this fight. He is going to go down. Overtime disappears. Blank get first held, and that was a blowout.
That is a very painful way for Blank to end Kings Row, to end that hybrid, and suddenly the stats on Kings Row are just looking, unfortunately, a little bit worse for Blank overall, but Blank in that series, I got to credit some of their defensive, some of the way they play the defense. They had some good moments on their Kings Row defense, but their attack, unfortunately, was not all there together. They started out with the Soldier play. I kind of preferred if they stayed on to the Soldier. They went for the Genji play at the end of it, and that's okay too. You want to swap to Genji, you want to play the Tracer Genji again, that's fine. They waited so long to get the Dragon Blade in. They didn't find any good situations to actually capitalize on Dragon Blade. Eventually, when they did, all ATAR could get was K-Moment. He didn't even demech. He didn't even get the mech from K-Moment, which is a real kind of that's a bit of a shocker. And for Zonda, the real target, I mean, when you look at how Flash was positioned, Zonda came over on that high ground. You had you had ATAR diving in Dragon Blade. Yeah. Zonda's like, okay, I see Dragon Blade, man. I run down the corridor.
I'm just going to go into cover.
I run down the corridor, and suddenly ATAR's like, I already used my dash to try and get onto Zonda. I don't have another dash to chase him down now. Yeah. I just have to fight this diva and try and get him mech.
And the truth is, look, that's just always how Flash Wolves are going to be able to play that there when the Genji does get committed in that position. Look, you can just kind of retreat to cover. It's really hard for the Genji to capitalize on that. But at the same time, look, Blank weren't wrong for committing the Genji ult there as much as it was easy to react to, because actually,
they needed right?
Yeah, and that was the only place where they could. Like, you can't dash through a wall to get into the corridor in advance. That's the only patch of open ground on that high ground, and because they weren't able to kind of claim any part of that high ground themselves, that was their move to establish themselves on the high ground. It's no surprise that it got reacted to in that way, and like I said, that was the theme of every single push. I think just Flash Wolves reacted adequately.
And I think it was, the big takeaway, at least for me, is essentially the fact that they were very much relying on this double dive with the Tracer Genji to really work, and they couldn't get the Dragon Blade at any point right up until the final moments where they said, we just got to go for this, we just got to do it. And it wasn't even an ideal situation. It was, I can see Zonda, I'm just going to go and try for this now. And he couldn't really get Zonda, but every other time he sort of had the Dragon Blade available, which was a decent amount of that attack, just no opportunity to actually use it. They never broke the high ground. They could never break it. And if you look at the Flash Wolves attack, they got it straight away because ATAR and Gumba they abandoned the high ground. Yeah. I understand the play they were trying to make, and there's an argument for that play. Yeah. But ultimately, once you gave Flash Wolves that high ground, you never got it back.
Exactly, and for what it's worth, the plan there is you abandon the high ground, you collapse on Flash Wolves who have less members. You've also caught the healer. That's a great start, to be honest with you. Look, by rights, they were in a 6 versus 4. They were also kind of scrapping it out in the hotel room, so even though Zonda had the high ground, there wasn't too much he could do.
Yeah, no good
But
angle.
they still didn't convert the kills. Like, if you're not doing that in a 6v4, and by the way, when I say convert kills, I don't mean maybe pick one up and maybe lose one. I mean do what Flash Wolves are doing to Blank. I mean, get 4 kills, 5 kills, get an absolute rout, and then you can actually turn around and just pick Zonda off the high ground because suddenly he's all alone. That's the plan. The failure to fully carry out that plan really speaks to the difference between these two teams on the defense. And look, I had an argument in Blank's kind of defense on control here. I just don't for Kings Row. Flash Wolves, right now, are the better team.
All right, so this is the pretty much the exact play we're talking about here, and Eat Up dies fairly early. ATAR gets the mech kill from Game Momo, but essentially, I mean, Blank, they're not able to get anything else out of this, and eventually, as soon as the rest of Flash Wolves are online, I mean, they just come in and roll the rest of Blank out, respawning coming up from the back from Eat Up as well, the final moments, and it's just not enough.
And what we see there as well is something that's been endemic of all of the fights that have suddenly gone super pear-shaped for Blank. They don't seem to be able to retreat safely. Now look, it is that Flash Wolves are also moving aggressively the moment they notice Blank are... It's not even waiting for Blank to start retreating. The moment they know Blank have to retreat, they set themselves up to cut off that retreat already. But Blank's inability to have even a semblance of a slight retreat, like not even a single member is getting out most of the time, is really, really terrible. If you aren't able to commit to a fight and then take a necessary step back so that you can maybe have a bit more breathing space in that fight, you're doing something wrong.
I think for Blank is they're hard committing to fights, and that's good. Like I think there's merit to teams that are going to hard commit to fights because you need to be able to do that. If you really want to win a fight, you do have to hard commit, and they're playing the kind of hard commits where there just isn't a line of retreat, and half of that is because they're very committed to try and win the fight. Yeah. The other half is actually Flash Wolves blocking off the escape
Exactly,
paths.
exactly.
They're able to just completely collapse onto Blank, and Blank don't have the option to say, we've committed, it's starting to go wrong, we have an exit option. And on the other hand, I mean, Blank are not able to do the same to Flash Wolves. When Blank get a fight win against Flash Wolves, this is why I'm kind of saying, like, you know, the Gong Lady rings a lot for Flash Wolves because they're getting all these team wipes, and for Blank, they're getting more kills sort of staggered across the board, and never a really massive team wipe because, well, they haven't been able to get the massive collapses onto Flash Wolves. They haven't been able to cut off the escape paths, and for Flash Wolves, they do have options of escape.
Exactly, and here's the thing, look, Blank, if they're going to go for these sorts of plays where you don't have a retreat path, and here we'll actually see it again now in this exact replay, is they go for the hard commit, double transcendence is out, but already K-Momo kind of put pressure on the backside. Trill was in way too deep. And now again, look, this is the retreat. Altered, and look at how quickly it gets collapsed in on, right? Look at how quickly all those members died. And it was the second they went for the retreat. If you're going to go for those plays where you don't have the ability to take a step back if you need it, if you're going to hard commit and have no outs, you have to be converting kills on that hard commit.
You got to get trades, right?
Exactly, and they're just not. Now, once again, to be fair, there have been, you know, 1 or 2 times, like I can count it not just on one hand, but with only 3 fingers, where Blank have actually done that to Flash Wolves, where they've cut off Flash Wolves on the retreat, but it's been when Flash Wolves have miscommitted to a fight. That's not what Blank are doing. They're committing to the fights, they're just not winning them.
Yeah, I think that as well. In that particular replay, you know, Trill got caught out first, and it's definitely something of a bit of a trend here for Flash Wolves is they're able to get Trill early. They're able to focus down these tanks, and for Trill, part of Blank's game plan there, as you saw, was the hard commit because they threw every member on there despite Trill dying. Now, Trill having ulted would have been a little bit of a different story because he would have kept himself alive, kept the fight going, would have been the 6v6, and for Blank that would have been a much better situation to hard commit in because Blank decided to hard commit with 5 members and they're not able to get the trades because what they're looking for is, oh, we lost Trill. If we can pick up another member, turn it to 5v5, suddenly it's still a winnable situation because they have 2 options there. We lost Trill, we're going to back out as 5 and maybe take still a couple losses, or we will attempt to get the trade back and even things up and make a fight out of it. And they're always trying to make that trade back. Unfortunately, it's not working out. Now we're going to get into the next replay, and this is going to be the overtime here as, what is this? It's Blank trying to get the cap in.
It's their final attack here. So once again, it was just this kind of disarray. They didn't give themselves the time to set up. They didn't have the time to set up. Flash Wolves just had more resources anyway. At no point were they even able to maneuver to set up for the high ground because the setups were being cut off. And then this was just them going, okay, last ditch, let's just throw ourselves at them. And, you know, it's 2 freight trains kind of careening towards one another, and Flash Wolves that just have more weight, more momentum, more everything. I mean, it's obvious which way that is going to go.
They got a freight train with cargo in the back, and Blank is just the starting.
It's just the engine.
Yeah,
like it's just the engine. It's the straight up engine.
What we didn't see in the replay was the events leading up to it, which were the second to last fight, that was Blank's opening for a victory. That was the fight they banked on, and that was the one where they committed both Tracer Pulse Bomb and Atar's Dragon Blade as well. Yeah. So that was the final opportunity realistically for Blank to get in. And it was a good situation too because Flash Wolves had already committed a bunch of ultimates on the fight previous to that. And so now Blank coming back in, they're like, okay, we got ultimates out of Flash Wolves. We're now ahead. We should be able to win this. They couldn't get anything out of it. And Flash Wolves recharged for the final fight into the overtime. It was like 12 seconds remaining when Blank had to go back on. And they had nothing to play with at that stage.
And the reason we can still say that these 2 teams are close-ish, or at least this is currently the closest team to Flash Wolves, is, to be completely frank with you, no other team has actually had a window against Flash Wolves like what Blank did in that fight with the Dragon Blade and the Pulse Bomb both available, but still weren't actually able to execute on it anyway. So that is why Flash Wolves are still ahead. Like if you want kind of a microcosm of where all these teams stand, like that's a really great piece of evidence right there, but Flash Wolves are still ahead. We thought that maybe Blank had an opportunity to swing back, but now actually the tone of the series is looking a little bit dire for Blank. That being said, this is exactly where they were against Flash Wolves. Sorry, AHQ.
I actually think, yeah, absolutely right about that. So I think Blank may still have an extra gear that they haven't shown yet, or at least in this series they haven't shown here, and they're going to need it if they want to win tonight against Flash Wolves in the first day of the grand finals for OPC. The other thing I just want to touch up on very quickly is the fact that, look, for Blank as well, they're one of the few teams in the OPC that actually are able to capitalize on mistakes Flash Wolves make. And Flash Wolves, they're able to just punish everybody, and Blank are the first team able to really push them back. And we're about to get into the third map, which is going to be Assault very, very soon. When we come back, could be facing down the barrow of an 0-3 lead for the Flash Wolves, or maybe Blank will be able to pull it back on through. We'll see you after this break. And welcome back to the OPC Grand Finals. If you've just joined us, it is Blank Esports taking on the Flash Wolves. So far, they're 2 maps down, and they're looking like they're really struggling tonight.
Yeah, let's be completely fair. Look, this was, like I said just before the break, the same position they found themselves exactly a week ago against AHQ. But those first 2 maps had been closer, especially the control. This has actually just been Flash Wolves looking the stronger. Look, yeah, sure, maybe Blank can still strike back. I mean, absolutely you'd hope that they can. I am assuming they're going to pick at least 1 map win across this whole playoffs. It would be absurd if they didn't, right? But can they pick up a whole 4? Can they fully turn it around? I really don't know at this point.
So one thing for Blank to consider is when we look at the AHQ series from last weekend, because Blank were the home team, at least on that first day, which is the relevant comparison here, Blank were able to pick the Assault. They were able to say, look, this is our weakest game mode for sure, yeah. But we're going to pick what map that's going to be on to sort of leverage, you know, where can we cut our losses here? Where are we going to get our best chance and our best showing? And they were able to do that. Now they're not going to get that chance. It's going to be Flash Wolves pick on the Assault. And if they pick Hanamura, which Blank have the worst win rate on, then suddenly things don't look very good. And hey, presto.
There it is, Hanamura. Yeah, 33% win rate for Blank here. This is their worst map of their worst mode, and they are 0-3 against Flash Wolves on it. I feel like that kind of says it all there. To be frank.
Flash Wolves with 100% win rate on this map as well.
Just by the way. But to be frank, because this has been a glaring weakness for Blank, it's one that they've worked incredibly hard to patch up. That was actually evident versus AHQ. It was on Volskaya, which is a bit of a different kettle of fish. They are strong on Volskaya. They are a good Volskaya team, better than they are on any of these other 2 Assault maps. But are they kind of evened up enough? Have they kind of fixed their mistakes enough to really take it on Hanamura? I don't know. I would like to think that they could.
They're definitely on the back foot in terms of picks. I think they should have, in theory, on paper, they should have focused on Hanamura specifically, knowing going into Flash Wolves' home day, they get the Assault pick. What's our weakest map? It's going to be Hanamura. What are we expecting them to pick? Most likely Hanamura. If it's Volskaya, we got a good showing here. We got a good shot here. It's our best Assault, and debatably, it's also Flash Wolves' worst Assault because it's one of the few Assaults where they actually dropped a map. That was Tamachi in round robin 2. Flash Wolves have not dropped any other Assault map whatsoever. They've dropped only 1, and that was it.
And this may just be the second one. You're completely right. And again, to kind of if you're kind of curious, to draw a similar situation, you know, look at, again, this time last week, AHQ in that very first one, they had, they knew it was going to be Blank's pick, they figured it was going to be Ilios, and they practiced for it, and then they won it. And we are expecting Blank to have done, like you said, that exact thing for Hanamura here. Will it have been enough to win it? I don't know, because I do feel there is a bigger gap between these 2 teams, but if there is a strength Blank have, it is the ability to close gaps during series. A best of 7 gives you a lot of space to do that. You've still got the recovery time tomorrow. There is a long way between here and outright losing the finals. I think there is just enough time in there for Blank to really turn it around, but maybe they just can't.
I actually think a victory on Hanamura would make a big statement because not only would it be a bit of a turnaround in the actual series, but you know it would kind of shore up on the weaknesses of Assault. It would say, look, Assault is no longer something you can exploit us for. Sure, we're not going to be great on it, but it's not a guaranteed win for the other team either. You're going to have to really fight for this, and potentially you may not even win it. They already took an Assault victory against AHQ, of which they've struggled with in the past. They've struggled to take Assault off of AHQ. AHQ had a great Assault record versus Blank, and they got shut down.
Yeah, so, and it wasn't like the semi went 1-for-1 either. On both days, actually, Blank won Assault. It is fair to say they have fixed up what was going wrong. Look, even before that, they were actually having good showings on Assault anyway in the final round robin. It's still hard to judge these 2 teams. And like I said, there are so many questions coming into this final. We're starting to answer some of them. Still just way too many hanging over both of them to call anything. And we're not even going to be able to call anything until the very final game has been played in this finals. But I do still very much believe in the space for Blank to improve. Whether they can actually use that space, that's a different story.
I think, you know, without trying to get a little bit too far ahead, we're now looking at, this is the third map in a series of potential 7. When we get to map number 4, when we get to the final, when we get to the actual escort, that's when, on paper, Blank's next best game mode after Control. So they've already lost Control, but they also lost Control against AHQ. When they get up to escort, that should be a more favorable game mode. Now we're on an unfavorable game mode right now for Blank. This isn't going to be easy for them, but like I said previously, a good showing on Hanamura, or even a victory on Hanamura, would really allow them to get that comeback.
Yeah, and they won't feel too uncomfortable here, purely because they were in this position against AHQ. The psychological issue, I don't think will be too much of a factor here, but let's see how the cards fall in this one. Blank out the gate, going ahead with the Tracer Genji. I do very much like this on attack.
And Realman's gone on to the Sombra as well. So usually Synchro plays it, but this time it's going to be Realman, something we don't see a lot of out of. So Flashwell's got a little bit of variety in terms of what they can play, and the early pickup for Blank is going to be quite good for them.
Yeah, Zonda now trying to contest
nice.
up, but wow, able to drive that one home as well. And Zonda had already had to retreat from A-Town on the other side of that point, by the way. So honestly, Flashwells just weren't given any room to breathe on that one. Blank is two-pronged assault. They absolutely shred through Flashwells. This is the showing they need.
And that's the gong. I mean, they didn't get the gong, but hey, I'll give them a gong for that one. That was full 6 kills. Edith really set that one up for them. 2 right at the top of it. A far cry from what we just saw in King's Row. King's Row looked like a helpless Blank, unable to find an opening on the first cap. This was just doors blown open.
This is their opportunity for a bit of a snowball as well. They don't have ults up just yet, but they're close enough to them. They can get them up during a fight. Catching K-Momo's mech, that's a huge start. Just barely keeping Gunver alive. Oh my goodness, they rout out the tanks. They're getting on top of this one, and they will have these ultimates available. The Pulse Bomb can come through. They've got a third already. They'll be happy with that. But I tell you, they want more. They're not just happy with that. Kiki loses the mech, but no one's here from Flashwells. They have to fight. No way! No way! 6 minutes, 37 seconds, Blank are back. They are still in this. We have a final on our hands.
Here we go. They're happy about that one. This is so good from Blank. How did they just... I mean... What?
Lulled Flashwells into a false sense of security by losing 2 maps. That's the plan. That's the game plan.
I'll tell you what, this is the AHQ series all over again. It's starting to look that way.
Maybe that's what this is. Like, they're like, all right, let's just, like, this has got to be a devastating psychological blow to Flashwells. That's like their plan. They're just like, let's just break their minds. I don't know.
637. They didn't even get that kind of
that was
against
nuts.
It's not going to be a write-off just yet. I think for Flashwells, it's a massive wake-up call.
Yep.
And for Flashwells, it's going to be super tough. I think Flashwells did get caught off guard a little bit there. Something that hasn't happened on the other maps. On the other maps, they look very controlled. They set the pace of the game extremely well. This time around, it was them reacting to Blank and unfortunately not reacting well.
Now here's the other thing that happened, because we've been talking about Blank having these really aggressive all-in plays where you don't have that room to retreat. They haven't been able to execute on them. The other thing that happened there is actually Blank did execute. And that's really important. They were actually getting the picks, they were actually getting the kills, they were actually getting the pressure. Now it's a bit easier to do that when you are literally on attack, on assault, but they weren't able to do it on King's Row. So you kind of mentioned, look, maybe there is this other level Blank can push themselves to. It very much feels like we might have just seen it.
I think there's a possibility for that. I also think it was Flashwells kind of just caught with their pants down at the same time. So it was Blank really leveling themselves up, and also Flashwells totally unprepared, hands out, caught red-handed. Nothing really, you know, Flashwells was just a total blowout.
We'll call it even, bit of both. But let's see if Flashwells can match it blow for blow on their own attack, because that could absolutely change the pace of this entire game.
Yeah, they're going to be playing for more of a setup here because they're not running the Genji. They're not going to get the snowball kills in the way that Blank did.
Oh, Trills!
This might be a death.
It is indeed a death. Good follow-up on that, and I'm not sure what Trill was planning to do there, but he looks like the one caught with his pants down this time around, actually. Yeah. Blank are going to try and contest this one a little bit harder. First, they're going to back off, and then maybe come back in for an attack themselves in a moment here. So they're not going to give up the point just as easily, I don't think. But here we go. This is the opportunity to go in now. They need to convert some kills quick, smart. They are going to at least bleed the clock a little bit. They don't want it to be a whitewash, but they already lose RQT. Gunva down on the dive. Idiop does get a response kill on the back line, and they will at least successfully bleed time, but they are still going to lose the point. That's fine. That was almost a given the moment Trill died. But actually, they're really bleeding time here. They're really hurting Flash Wolves. They finally get the last few kills through, but they don't have that same snowball potential. Blank were able to charge up some good ultimates and have run down the clock enough that we won't have Flash Wolves matching their time.
Absolutely. So even if Flash Wolves get a full cap out, they're not going to get as much time back, which gives Blank a lot more room to work with. Not only that, but now when we look at the way Blank played that, I actually said, you know, for Flash Wolves, they're going to have that slow approach anyway because they're playing Soldier instead of Genji. They need a bit of a setup. Suddenly, you don't need to make that setup if you can catch somebody out. And Trill is still getting caught out very early. It's unfortunate that that's happened on King's Row. It's happening on Paul as well.
Oh, that's a stick. That's big. Well, like, let's say it, Flash Wolves aren't going to be capping off this push. I'm going to go
I
ahead
don't think
and,
they were anyway.
yeah.
I just don't think they had the momentum going on from the first cap to do it
No,
anyway.
not with the ults that even.
And Eat Up severely punished him, and they said, you're going to try and push this slowly because Flash Wolves have to play this slowly. They have to set up their soldier. Zonda has to get good positioning here for anything to happen, and Blank are just not going to allow it.
I'll be honest with you though, that gave them a bit of room to get these last few ults up. They will now have the nano boost, got the tactical visor in that window as well. Should get the self-destruct. But Flash Wolves have a good run of ultimates themselves. Will have all 6. There is a window for them now. If Blank can hold this though, they set themselves up very handily for a good defense. So we'll have to see how they react to this because they're going aggressive. Nano visor, really throwing all their ults at this one actually. Balls to the wall, as it were. But they're not finding anything. They're not converting kills. It's been reacted to, and now Flash Wolves, their pockets are just deeper. They've already popped the mech. They strike back onto Trill. Zonda already converting on the tactical visor, now has this high ground. This is bad news for Blank. Now they're going to be in scatter mode, trying to contest this point, trying to bleed the clock as much as possible. Really overcommitting on that fight, getting deeply punished for it. The closeout on Gunva as well, and they're barely kind of trickling onto this point here, not getting any trade kills at all. Not a single member of Flash Wolves has died in this second push now. Not even losing K-Momo's mech. This is absolutely phenomenal. Last ditch self-destruct from Kiki, won't even find anything, and there will be a captain for Flash Wolves in 5 minutes.
I think Blank severely misplayed that one. Very naive of them to believe that that play with the initial commit was going to net them dividends. I mean, ATAR was never set up in a position where a nano visor was going to be super effective. K-Momo wasn't distracted. He wasn't shut down. Matrix was available. Flash Wolves were in a position where they could just run and hide. They were able in a position where they can just say, look, we're not even going to play you in this situation. We got 6 ults here. We talk about Blank being too reactive. I think Blank were too proactive here. As silly as that sounds, sometimes you got to be the ones reacting in that situation. Flash Wolves needed to be the ones committing first, and you got time to burn. Look, you already got 637. If Flash Wolves take too long to get their push in, A, they're not getting stronger because they already got 6 ults, so they're not waiting for anything. And B, the time is running out, so you're just getting more and more of an advantage. And also, you're building up your own ults. Let Flash Wolves ult first, then pick the appropriate response. Even if you lose, Trill's got a primal rage. You've got a nano boost. Your stalling options are available. You can always get in for the retake.
And you're completely right there. It is possible to be a bit too proactive, and that is very much what happens. Look, it's point 2 of assault. You are the defending team. That is your point. They're the ones who have to come to you. They're the ones who have to attack you. Flash Wolves, though, they do have the lesser time. So they now have to attack first. This could be another opportunity for Blank to bleed down the clock a little bit better than last time.
They're playing this situation a little bit differently now. ATAR onto the Genji. They very much want to play aggressive here. And they kind of half attempted that with Trill last time, and Trill, smartly so, is not going to be in the same position he was before.
Yeah, very smartly indeed. And again, in terms of burning down the clock, this means that Flash Wolves, because they will actually go for the setup play, they will not be able to cap in that same amount of time. At least.
So this is where Blank now need to be proactive. You know, there is a fine balance here, but you cannot let Flash Wolves get the setup. If Zonda is in a good position, he's going to be impenetrable for Blank. You're playing a Genji here. You're not doing your setup. You have to find an opening. You have to be able to pull the trigger and actually engage.
And it does look like a bit too much space has been given now. Bacon Jack has spotted who he was after here on the side. It's these 2 flankers who were waiting for Flash Wolves to make a move. The tanks are in one place, the DPS is in the other, and now they're split up. Bacon Jack in the middle of them, going to try and get pressure onto both, but they're trying to get the dive onto Sinclair, not quite able to convert that one, and now getting very hardly contested in this backside. Gunva able to just barely stay alive. Good catch onto Sinclair, but he did pop the mech, and now they're going to go aggressive themselves here. Pulse Bomb out. Oh no, it catches RQT and does big damage as well. This is going to be the last ditch from AVRL to try and turn it around against Zonda, but now it's just a mech. Hold on, he might be able to do it. He does.
What?
He got K-Momo as well. All right then, never mind. AVRL.
The hero of the day. Put him back on Genji. This is what they needed all along, and he was the only one getting kills amidst all that chaos. He got 2 dash kills in the middle of that, got his Dragon Blade rather quickly because of the damage output he had, and also from the early kills, and then was able to clean up. And for Flash, it was unexpected. They didn't see the Dragon Blade coming. They didn't realize that he was going to get it that quickly.
And you're right, that was exactly what they needed. This time around, though, Flash Wolves will have a few more resources, and they're looking to go aggressive. So there won't be a last-ditch Dragon Blade to save it here.
No
out
more
of
miracles.
Yeah, it's not really a possibility. But they can just execute this fight itself a little bit better. And it's not a good way to start it, though. The defense matrix not there in time to save EU up, and now the point is opened up. Bacon Jack going aggressive. Gunba throws out the nano boost onto AVRL to try and get something, but Zonda closes out that kill anyway. Now getting aggressive onto this point. Actually, I think the nano boost is onto Trill instead, who does have the ultimate opts to not use it. They have conceded this point effectively. They are going to draw out as much time as they can, and that is the correct play here. They need to be careful to not give too much ult charge, and once again, they need to hold on to what they do have to try and get a good defense on the second point.
Yeah, stopping the snowball momentum from Flash was going to be extremely important for the second cap here. That's why saving Trill's ultimate, saving the Primal Rage is good. You don't want to have committed the Primal Rage on the first cap. Saving it here allows you to get additional wave of respawns, allows you to sort of relieve the pressure Flash Wolves are about to bring to the table. You're not going to get the double pulse bomb kill that Enup got last time. There's not enough resources up from Blank to do it effectively.
So he might get a double pulse bomb kill though here as Bacon Jack if Blank aren't careful, and he is looking for exactly that. It's going to be to throw out surely onto Trill. Actually no, he's going to have to use the ultimate instead,
early
which is very
okay.
early indeed, forced out. They need to convert kills while that's running, but Trill's been forced to retreat anyway. They do at least get Realman, but they lose a key DPS member. AVRL nearly has that Dragon Blade, but they don't want to rely on that, especially not with him going down. And now they have to use the self-destruct to find space. Trill can't save himself this time around. There's the self-destruct, but they don't have any members to convert kills. K-Momo's going to throw out his own self-destruct. No one goes down to either of them. That's a lie kick. He loses his mech, and with the pilot form out, he is going to go down. Flash Wolves are already looking poised to set themselves up on the second point. Look to get a cap through here. Contest last ditch out of flank. Here we go. Dragon Blade. Oh, this time no such luck. 2 near death. You're completely right. The cap goes through anyway. Took a lot longer, but we now can very much go to a double time back.
And this is just like Nepal all over again for Blank rather. I was going to say Flash Wolves, but for Blank, they were able to find they were sort of in a position where they just committed an ultimate because it was forced out. It's like you see on Nepal. They had to play both the support ultimates, then they just used something else, and Flash Wolves are just sitting there like, we'll wait, we're happy to take this, we're happy to see what you do here, we'll respond when we need to, we'll respond when we decide is a good time. And so for Trill, unable to save the Primal Rage to actually contest, to actually stall out the cap itself, but got it forced out quite early, or maybe even worse, maybe he thought it was a proactive choice to use it quite early, which is definitely not the right choice if that was the case. I'm going to assume he got it forced out, and potentially I would have rather taken the death and saved the ultimate.
In a way, yeah, because then you can at least get back onto the point and still use it later on. You're completely right. So here's the thing now. Flash Wolves, they're not going to fall prey to the same mistake as last time, I guarantee you that. Blank, if they get a cap, I don't think it'll be as quick as the first one, and they do need to get a cap.
And that's scary because we're sort of in the realm where you got 6 minutes 37, but we've already seen Blank getting first held on King's Row. So despite having an amazing time, you have to be able to get this cap. And one thing I know from Flash Wolves is they will have learned their lesson from that initial blowout. How did Blank succeed? Flash Wolves will be a lot more prepared based on that.
And already looking to not let them run quite so rampant here. Not letting Eat You Up get that same setup on the one side. AVRL also not quite getting the same setup on the other. Bacon Jack, though, having a bit of a hard time in this contest, able to use the recall. Neither Tracer coming out the better, but they pick Zonda. That's what they need on that middle ground dive. Now, actually, Bacon Jack needs to maybe turn his attention to the rest of the team here, because Blank, they're pushing for the point itself, and that means Flash Wolves are going to have to play for it. They did not get routed out off to the side here. Good connect onto Realman. They do lose RQT in that one, but they're keeping Singlet caught off to the side as well, which means all of this damage on K-Momo and Jongi is going unanswered for. Reflects in K-Momo going down, Jongi following him to the grave. Blank have lost Gunba. They will lose Trill here as well, but it's on Bacon Jack to get a hero play along with Zonda. That's not something you want want to rely on. That being said, it worked for Blank last round. This time, though, it is not going to work for Flash Wolves. Bacon Jack forced off. Zonda already dead. There he goes. Takes the dive. Cap goes through.
Absolutely. It's not going to work for Flash Wolves because Zonda just doesn't get that Dragon Blade. There's nothing in the pocket for Flash Wolves. There's no miracle play for Blank. Eitar did so well. He got an early ultimate that Flash Wolves were not prepared for. And Blank, off the back of Edup's play again, they were able to open up their first cap. So Edup's been the hero of the attack. Eitar's been the hero of the defense.
Yeah, there is a real opportunity to snowball here, actually, with this Pulse Bomb available. Will be matched by Bacon Jacks, but Realman rather, has swapped onto the Zenyatta. That Transcendence not available yet. Gunba can get his up. This means Flash Wolves have to make the aggressive move. That is exactly what they do. They catch Gunba. The snowball can't really come through just yet. Flash Wolves have given themselves crucial breathing room.
This is a lot of time wasted, unfortunately, for Blank, and we talk about snowball potential. Well, for that to happen, Flash Wolves need to not be given time to build up their ultimates. Blank got to be able to push in aggressively early. This is a very different scenario to what we saw last time for Blank. They got the first cap. Blank immediately went in with their advantage and capitalized. This time around, they waited. They tried to wait for some sort of setup. They tried to find positioning and unfortunately wasted far too much time.
Now let's see if they can set up the second time around. They have some ultimates, very aggressive sound barrier. They need to convert so quickly off that. They haven't yet. They're going to open up with this blade. Oh no, put asleep in front of the nano boosted soldier. I don't know how he stayed alive there. Clutch heals, if nothing else, but they haven't converted the kills. The members are getting low, and finally the connect from Gunba comes through. K-Momo will lose his mech here, but he can commit a self-destruct on it anyway if he wants. And Blank, way too aggressive, way too aggressive, and totally punished.
I'm not even going to use the word aggressive here. I think the aggression was fine. I think the timing on the ultimate was not fine. However, the sound barrier came in a sort of fashion where Flash Wolves had ample time to react. They had ample time to retreat back into the spawn. Even the reaction nano boost against Dragon Blade, well timed and well played by Flash Wolves, and the sleep was absolutely amazing. So Flash Wolves had a lot of. They found enough room to definitely swing back. I mean, if Blank threw the first punch, I mean, Flash Wolves got the uppercut.
That's one way to put it, yeah, and maybe next time don't quite go for a haymaker, Blank. Let's see what they can open out with this one. Now, they do still have some tools at their disposal. They did draw some out of Flash Wolves. Oh my, that's big for them. Pulse Bomb deep, doesn't convert, but forces Transcendence. They lose RQT, they need to keep Gunba alive, no such luck. They have picked Jongi. They need to fight for a third here, but they have to get through the tanks to do that. It looks like they will be able to pop K-Momo, but can they pop the pilot? Eitar's been forced out to the side. Unfortunately, going down to the pilot Diva, and Bacon Jack uncontested means not even a third for Blank. That is deeply unfortunate, and now they do not have the ults to go on to the next
And where Enup really succeeded on the first cap is he was able to get both the supports. Now, when I say get both the supports, I mean kill one of them and block Sinclair out, or block the Anna, whoever it was, because, you know, both Sinclair and Realman have been swapping off on those roles. Now, when we look at the second cap, Enup does go in. He misses the Pulse Bomb, unfortunately, onto Realman. Realman forced to use the Transcendence just to get out of spawn. When Enup went onto Sinclair, Realman saved Sinclair as well, so both supports just very safe.
They actually have to get this cap on this push pretty much if they want to really have a good shot in time bank, but again, proactive moves out of Flash Wolves. That is very crucially blocked. Able to hold themselves steady through that, and yeah, Enup with the change here. Now Eitar will have the ultimate. This is their big window, but again, Flash Wolves with the aggressive moves. Enup goes down. This is unanswered. Where is the proactivity out of Blank? Or are they just going to be perpetually setting up here? Flash Wolves, with very few ultimates used, completely repel Blank.
And Blank is sitting on 5 ultimates, so they need to be able to find a position. This is almost a similar situation where Flash Wolves were making this push. Blank on the defender side decided to go aggressive. Flash Wolves had a lot of ultimates. They responded correctly. Now, but Blank, they're sort of in a position where they can't afford to wait for Flash Wolves to make a mistake. They have to make the play here because their team is not going to get any stronger. And Flash Wolves are not going to make the mistake here first.
And they can't cap in overtime because then they have to try and burst hold Flash Wolves. And again, they're struggling to even break onto this high ground. They need to get someone, or at least break out. They've finally managed to do that, and they catch Bacon Jack. Here we go. Pressing the go button here is RQT, and they unleash the beast. That's what they... Oh, no, too deep. Couldn't get back around the corner, so K-Momo was able to answer back. They're able to pop the Diva. They haven't actually got enough progress on the point, and the respawns will come through now for Flash Wolves. They desperately have to pick up kills as the members of Flash Wolves come out, but they lose RQT and the mech as well. Bacon Jack does get traded back as they lose Kiki, who was not able to get back in the mech.
1v1.
And Zonda and Enup, yeah, 1v1, because he knows he needs to stop Enup, or he can ult the point blank, get repelled again.
That was, I'm actually quite impressed by the way Zonda went to take that. It was a very even 1v1. It was a very straight up man fight. It was, we both have exactly the same things here. I know you're not going to ult me, and if you do, that's really silly, and I'll take it anyway. But, you know, Zonda, nice rockets, secure the deal for Blank, and
Happy
Blank
birthday to
had,
Jongi.
happy birthday, Jongi. Blank had the setup, and they still couldn't secure the point.
Now they're just going to have to go right down the middle. Very few resources available. To be fair, very few for Flash Wolves as well. Let's see how they set this one up. They need to get aggressive once again. Capping in overtime, which is probably the only option for them. Will mean they had the first hold Flash Wolves. That in itself is a huge ask. They need to set up Edu up on the high ground. Now moving for that position. Here we go.
They don't even have a 30, which is a really concerning thing. They're about to get into the overtime, losing a member early. I think Blank got to get out and regroup.
They do, they really do, but Jongi is going to make it as hard as possible to do that because they've already committed. An ATAR is too deep, he goes down. They finally get Bacon Jack. What does it matter? They do not have the members to push this. They don't have the time to retreat or to attack. They are just stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're going to buy themselves some space, maybe try and get Eat You Up back in the fray here, but they're going to cap an overtime if at all, and I don't even know if they can do that.
5 seconds remaining and 3 ultimates to play. Zonda has one of his own. I don't think Flash Wolves are going to give this up too easily.
Eat You Up is opened up with his tactical visor. Now Zonda responds as Eat You Up finds nothing and goes down to K-Momo, completely blocked up. Double Transcendence out. And Blank aren't finding anything once again. They haven't got kills. They popped actually, they didn't even pop a mech. They're not getting anything at all. They finally catch Riemann on the back end, but it is pittance pay. They will not even cap here. We won't go to a second time back. They are going to lose Assault. And despite having an absolutely stunning first Assault, they just got completely smacked down.
It was a really unfortunate way to end what was an extremely exciting and positive start for Blank. And the big takeaway here, the silver lining for Blank as it were, is they are getting better, or at least the series is getting tighter as we progress through it. But the runway is absolutely ending as well. If this is a plane trying to take off, you're about to hit the water because there's only one map left to go. Even if you are improving now, even if you are bringing the scoreline closer and closer, you're going to be able to get one of these map wins eventually.
You have to, turn the tide eventually. Getting closer and closer is one thing. By the way, play the game, no surprises there. ATAR with that first point defense, but you're right, getting closer is kind of not good enough because even if you then get to that map where you come off even, that's still not a win. You're 0-3 down now. You need a win. Nothing else will do. And I don't know if Blank can actually do that because, yeah, sure, silver lining, you're not wrong. But eventually, you need a bright, fluffy cloud, right? You need to not be facing rain clouds. Eventually, you need more than just silver linings. You need more than in their defense. You need more than saving. Yeah, you need more than saving graces, right? What you need is raw ability and getting it over the line.
And I think Escort is the best place for them to do that. The prediction kind of was Assault was never going to be their most favorite game mode, and actually, strangely enough, that's been their best showing, has been on Assault. So that is a little bit of an interesting turnaround from Blank that was a little bit unexpected. Now we go into Escort, which on paper and historically and statistically is a much better place for Blank to want to be in. This is their final opportunity for a turnaround, and I think also the place where they're most likely to also get a turnaround.
Yes.
So that's kind of it.
Yeah, absolutely the case here. So, I mean, as much as I just said, saving graces aren't good enough, you're right, that actually is the saving grace of Blank right here. And look, stranger things have happened, right? The Escort is their pick. That is good. That is in their favor. Hybrid, hard to say. Hard to say what will happen, where it would go. It is Flash Wolves' pick. But Kings Row is off the table. Look, maybe there is somewhere just Blank feel a little bit more favored. Maybe part of picking Kings Row is they go, all right, well then when it's Flash Wolves' pick, if we get that far, they're going to have to go to a map that favors us more. Really hard to say. Really hard to say. But it is still very winnable for Blank. It is still turnaroundable, as awkward a word as that is.
I would prefer Blank to definitely just pick their best match rate to start things off with, and that kind of speaks to now moving into Escort. They can pick Dorado right off the bat because, you know, not only is Escort now going to be after Control is their most favorable game mode, but also having the map pick option allows them to get that sort of comeback, and it's kind of the reverse of AHQ versus Blank Day 2. Look, AHQ were down 3 maps. They brought it back in map number 4. I don't want to talk about map number 5 yet because AHQ eventually lost that to Blank, and maybe
Yeah.
that'll happen again. But Blank got to be able to get that map 4 first, and I think this is definitely the place where they can do that.
To be honest, though, you don't want to get 4-0'd on day 1. No matter what happens, you want to walk away with at least 1 map win. Really, you want more than just that as well, because you have to even it up tomorrow if you do lose tonight. Look, they haven't lost tonight yet, but they are really on the cusp of it, right? And if you do lose without picking up that map win, sure, you go into tomorrow with that home side advantage, but so did AHQ on day 2, and they still couldn't turn anything around, having actually picked up map wins. It's really, really tough for Blank here in every sense of the word. On the other side of this, though, is Flash Wolves, and everything so far, to be frank, has been a little expected. They were the favored team coming into this. They still clearly are. All reports, like I said, pointed to them being nigh untouchable, absolutely dominant. And honestly,
I think they've been touched now.
a little bit, but it's still just kind of a promise that's being fulfilled.
Yeah, the good news is they have been matched in some sort of way. Blank have given blows back.
They have touched
Blank have not just been a punching bag for Flash Wolves. No, Blank have had blows of their own that they've returned onto the Flash Wolves themselves. But Flash Wolves, they came into the grand finals with a 57 map win streak, 57 maps competitively in the OPC, victories in a row. That is now 60 with the 3 maps added onto that. There's a real possibility, and it's a bit of a scare because you mentioned you don't want to walk away 4-0 on day 1. You also don't want to walk away 8-0 across the entire weekend, because that would also mean Flash Wolves continue that 100. No, it's not going to be 100%, but 57 they came in with. Add another 8 on top of that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. Look, to contextualize this a little bit, as much as we don't want to get too far ahead of themselves, the reality is Flash Wolves just being this strong right now is actually good news in the grand sense for all of these teams moving forward. It's a good thing for Season 2, but right here, right now, Blank need to step up. There isn't breathing room.
All right, so this is one of the moments where Blank really, this is, I just got myself a little bit confused. I believe this is actually Blank's
This is them stepping up. This is very much them attack.
Yeah, this is their first attack where they were able to cap it up very quickly. And, for Flash Wolves, very much caught off guard in this entire attack. From the first cap to the second cap, members just weren't there. Mistimed plays from Flash Wolves. Who's going to get on the point? Who's playing for the contest here? Are we going to get into... Can we actually stall this cap out? How much can we afford to give away? 1/3 was gone very quickly, as we saw. The second third then came shortly after that. And I think for Flash Wolves, no one was able to get themselves together, and it was a very uncomposed Flash Wolves. That was probably the weakest Flash Wolves have looked in this entire series, and it was a very surprising turn of events for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Surprising. But what it does say is that is a possible thing that can happen for Flash Wolves. They're not invulnerable, right? They may seem untouchable, but they're not invulnerable. They do actually have weaknesses. They do make glaring mistakes. They're making them very, very infrequently, but they made it just then. Blank absolutely capitalized, and it sends the clear message that if they do it again, Blank will capitalize and may just start to turn the series around. If Flash Wolves do it too much, Blank can pull out a win.
Exactly, and one of the victory conditions for Blank is essentially Flash Wolves, as you said, are not an invulnerable team. That means they have weaknesses, and for Blank, they've been one of the few teams in the OPC that have been able to capitalize on those weaknesses, and we've seen that in this series so far. We've seen that across every single map tonight, actually, we have. And that kind of means if Flash Wolves make enough mistakes, or yet if Blank are able to capitalize on these mistakes as well, that's when Blank can really get themselves a win.
Yeah, and it puts a kind of pressure on Flash Wolves that I don't actually feel other teams really do, where they're sitting there going, we can't afford to make mistakes, because if we do, Blank will capitalize on them. That's, like I said, not necessarily a pressure they maybe feel against other teams, and that is part of Blank's win condition here. Look, the psychological factor in tournament play is a very real thing. I don't feel like I need to justify that part of it, but Blank do still need to put Flash Wolves in that position and capitalize. Here now is their own defense on that point too, and similarly it went very well for the attacking side here, but it was a little bit better contested by Blank. They were just kind of pushed off this high ground. Trill going down here, and we pointed out, used the ultimate very early, was what swung it in earnest, because now between him and Kiki being gone, there was no one to kind of contest Zonda on the high ground. The rest of Blank had to stick off to the side to wait for the tanks to respawn, which gave Bacon Jack an opening. And now it's Flash Wolves on the point itself, and it's on Blank to kind of trickle in and contest. They bled the clock out much more than Flash Wolves did, which is actually important. But then they didn't capitalize on that further when we went into Time Bank.
And this is the moment where, Flash Wolves came with 6 ultimates, and I said the onus was on Flash Wolves to actually pull the trigger first here, and it should have been. Flash Wolves should have been the ones to attack first, and then for Blank to say, this is how we're going to react to this play, and this is how we're going to try and counter that one, because essentially what Blank tried to do instead was, they wanted to be the proactive ones, and there's a merit to that, but you have to find your timings correctly, you have to find your openings correctly, and for Blank, there was no opening, and they got completely... They really got read there and got punished well by Flash Wolves, because Flash Wolves completely counted out Blank's proactive play without even ulting themselves. They didn't have to have any responsive ultimates. They waited for the take Vise to run out. They just killed Trill, and then they said, we still got 6 ultimates to play with. Now we're going to go into yet another replay, and this is going to be Flash Wolves attacking yet again on their time bank.
Yeah, and this was where they were actually able to cat that second point, and we noted, of course, on their second attack, Blank weren't. Now, it actually did get off to a decent start for Blank by picking Realman, but they weren't actually in position to contest anyone else. Kiki finally throws up this mech here, but all it's going to do is force Zonda onto the low ground, and most of the members of Blank are dead already. It's actually quite safe for him to do that. So throwing it onto the points may have actually given them the space they needed to contest, because you can see Airdrop is actually still alive. They are actually getting some respawns through, but because there isn't space for those respawners to move into, they can't do anything with it. All they can do is just kind of stagger in, trickle in, run down the clock a little bit, and it just doesn't get you anywhere.
I'm kind of 50-50 on the self-destruct, because I definitely see your point. On the other hand, I also think Blank need an option against Zonda, because Zonda is well set up on the high ground. He's got tank visor ready to go that he didn't use until later on, and at the end of the day, the self-destruct did come through. It did force Zonda off, but Flash Wolves were in a position where Zonda was going to be safe anyway. I like the thought of it, and it's realistically either option could have been good.
Really, you wanted to kill Zonda.
Yeah, the ideal situation would have been to kill Zonda, or just get kills across the board anywhere else.
Just kill everyone. That's the ideal.
And hopefully we'll get to the replay later when it's actually Blank, and I confirm we're not going to get there, but I'll just sort of say it anyway. Blank, on their final attack, they played Eat Up on Soldier, and he was never put in a position where, like Zonda, just sat on there. You almost want to call it the Apudo spot, because he's one infamous for that clip of him just raining down fire. And Eat Up was never able to get set up there. Zonda was, and you see a massive difference there. So there it is, 3-0 so far as a scoreline. And very soon, when we come back, it's going to be the final moments and the final opportunity for Blank to get one on the board and try and really make something of day one. It's not looking good so far, but it might look a little bit better right after this break. And thank you for sticking through that break with us, as we're about to get into Map 4 of Blank Esports versus Flash Wolves in the grand finals of the OPC, and this could be the final moments for Blank.
It absolutely could. At least for today. It's not quite all over yet, but you're completely right. It could be it for this day. It would put Flash Wolves up 1-0 on their home day. Would really put the pressure on Blank to not only strike back on their home day tomorrow, but then still try and overcome Flash Wolves on day 3, which would again be Flash Wolves' home day. We kind of spoke about that. That's the overall strength of having the home side advantage over the course of this whole final series, but it's really coming to a loggerhead here, dude, and Blank absolutely have to turn it around. You don't want to go into tomorrow having picked up not a single map win against Flash Wolves.
And, as mentioned previously as well, you want to be able to finish on Flash Wolves' home day in a sort of favorable position, because if you can't beat them on their home day now, even if you win on your own home day, you have to play Flash Wolves again on day 3, which is then Flash Wolves' home day again. If you couldn't do it tonight, it's a big question as to how you're going to then do it on the day 3 instead.
Yeah, exactly. Something really will have to have changed.
Exactly.
And that's a hard thing to do. The thing I will say about Blank, though, is they are a team that is able to change. We have seen them go ahead and address and fix mistakes. We've seen Flash Wolves do it as well, but we've seen them do it in a different context. Flash Wolves have not had to do it so much in the context of, we were winning, now we're losing, let's figure out why. They've had to do it in a context of like, okay, how do we go from here to winning? And then beyond that, it's just been pushing themselves further and further, pushing the envelope, pushing the threshold. Blank have had to recover. And I think that teaches a team a lot more about themselves and how they play and how they improve. And I think that means Blank are right now a team that can push themselves a lot further, a lot faster. I believe we saw that last weekend. Will we see it this weekend? I don't know, but it's possible.
I think they're going to have to. And because the concern is, again, you don't want to be that team going 0-8 against the Flash Wolves. And I think Blank have already shown their ability to make that comeback, and Dorado was the map I talked about when we're getting into the Escort, because this is Blank's best, at least statistically, and I also want to say observationally as well, their best Escort. This is definitely a home turf for Blank.
Now, by the way, Flash Wolves, there is no evidence of what they're like here. Now, that's twofold. First of all, they haven't been to Dorado. Second of all, they've actually barely been to Escort.
In general.
Yeah, like, you can count on one hand the number of times they've been taken to Escort. That's how often they're 3-0. That's how undefeated they have been. It's been an absolutely dominant streak. I mean, that's just natural. If you've had a 57-game win streak, it means you haven't lost any of those games to take you to Assault in those best of fives of the regular season. Yeah, so, sorry, Escort, you're completely right. But so, look, it's hard to say whether Flash Wolves are favoured here or not. Like, we just don't know. We have nothing to go on. But what we do know, what we do absolutely know, Blank are dynamite on this map.
Absolutely. I think Dynamite would be a good way to sort of describe it. And Dynamite kind of works both ways here, because you don't want to blow yourselves up. And for Blank, it's a possibility, because
that's how Tracer's false bomb works.
Ilios should have been Dynamite for Blank, and unfortunately AHQ took that off them. Nambani should have been Dynamite for Blank, and unfortunately AHQ and then Flash Wolves also took that off Blank. So, where we thought Blank were going to be quite favoured on, unfortunately sometimes they weren't, and where we thought they were going to be quite weak on, in this case Volskaya or Assault in general versus AHQ, they were able to really smash that one in the park, and then Hanamura tonight as well. That was really good.
It was.
Still, despite the loss.
Yeah, you're actually completely right. And you kind of touched on that, it feels like it's got closer and closer over the course of the series. Eventually, Blank do have to flip it around. You can't just forever get closer but never quite surpass the other team, because that just results in a loss. But this is very much the time and the place and the map where I feel that is a real possibility. In fact, it's possibly the greatest opportunity for them to do that they'll get, at least today, if not in this finals as a whole.
I think for Blank, this is where, the entire evening, this entire series, they're going to be the most favoured. At the same time, their mental state, their morale, kind of mentioned at the top of the evening, if they go down 0-3 before they get to before they get to Escort, morale-wise, they're going to take a huge blow.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the psychological impact they're showing on Hanamura for that first attack would have on Flash Wolves. The psychological impact Flash Wolves' 3 wins has on Blank right now is much, much greater.
And if this was a regular best of 5, I mean, Flash Wolves would have already taken this victory. If we want to talk about it in that sort of sense, use this as an example of what a 5th round robin could have looked like. This was another 3-0 victory, which is a big deal. And it's a very unfortunate situation to be in for Blank, but because we're in a best of 7, there's a saving grace here. That Escort is guaranteed, and this is the best place for Blank to prove themselves as a team that can take it up to Flash Wolves.
Yeah, that's a very good point you raised there, actually. That sort of potential for theoretical, if you will, 5th round robin. But here we go, Blank on the defense. This is not a 5th round robin, this is the final, and they have an opportunity to turn it around. Yeah, great scout, catch the tanks with that. Ooh, nearly got ATAR too.
I mean, that would have been an explosive start for Flash Wolves already.
That would have been all kinds of devastating what they would have been.
Wow, Blank would have had a bad start.
It's good pressure from Flash Wolves, but Blank aren't ceding too much ground too quickly. They're really balancing what tank is taking what damage and at what time, but eventually it will crack here. The pressure from Flash Wolves starts to come to a log ahead, Trill very low, but this time able to safely retreat as they get a bit of pressure on Jongi. That's how you do it. That's how you keep the Winston alive. Zonda is on this high ground, starting to pressure the DPS a little bit, so Kiki is to come to react to that, and Blank are going to have to give up a ton of ground here. Oh dear, that's bad news for them. They're going to have to give up a lot more ground than that.
Absolutely, they're going to have to fall all the way back. They're not going to have one of their main sources of damage output. And ATAR might go down as well. That would be a big deal.
They would have to not die on the fallback as well. They are just barely able to stay alive, but they're not going to get anywhere further than that, right? They are pressured off to the side here. Good pulse bomb. And they're not actually able to re-enter this courtyard yet, and maybe won't be able to at all. And this is what we talked about Flash Wolves kind of cutting off these retreats. Now going very aggressive with the Tactical Visor wanting to close this one out as Blank are kind of forced to commit to the courtyard. No response kills once again as Trill gets picked off the back end of that one. Flash Wolves did it to commit a few ultimates, but they lost no one. They're going to get this cap through anyway.
And consistently, Jongi gets a double kill with the Primal Rage. No other Winston in this tournament can do that. It's just every single time he Primal Rages, two members, you just get deleted.
just die.
You might as well
One
jump
for
off
each fist.
That's a good way to put it. And then after that, it's like my ammo's out.
Yeah, I'm out of fists.
Gotta reload your fist.
Reload them, reclench them, like.
Oh boy.
Like you punch, like you know when like you hit something a bit too hard and you like your hand is hurt, and you're like and you shake your hand. It's like that. He's like I has to like shake his hands a little bit and like. Then
But he gets the kills.
Yeah, he gets the kills. That's
he
what
gets the
matters,
double
exactly.
kill, which is great.
So here we go now. Blank already getting kind of pressured out on the rest of this high ground push. They're not giving it up quite so easily though, and that is crucial. They really need to convert some kills though. Now they're going to commit to it. Eat You Up goes aggressive, but the pulse bomb gets eaten. That signals the aggressive move for Flashwolves. That's a good catch though. Round the corner to close out on Zonda. Now they're going to be able to commit to the payload itself. That is very important for them, and they need to convert more kills. That is exactly what's happening as they close out on Realmint, pressuring Bacon Jack out of this one as well, and they will hold for now.
Bacon Jack was very eager to take Eat Up in that 1v1 as well. Got saved by a well-timed Discord or from Gumbo to really pressure Bacon Jack. Killing Zonda at the start there. Eat Up's able to sort of find these opening kills. He was a big part of the reason why Hanamura on attack was so good.
Oh, that's a good pulse bomb, and unfortunately the boot does not create enough space to stop the stick, and it's already gone through. Now Bacon Jack looking to again unleash on Eat You Up, and the pressure is already there onto Blank. They lose one member and they really struggle. Kiki is able to throw out the self-destruction. They caught K-Momo's mech. Unfortunately, they still lose Eat You Up, but ATAR is at least on this high ground with the Shack Visor. They're going to have to throw everything in the kitchen sink at this one to make it turn into a hold. They haven't actually done it just yet either.
Zonda.
And now Zonda opens up. They weren't able to close enough out of that Shack Visor. Kiki at least has the mech, but K-Momo kind of threads the needle to find ATAR on the back end. And now Zonda's able to open up anyway. Sure, he got blocked up, but he was still uncontested. The payload is back underway. Blank do not convert that fight into a win.
And strangely, Jongi only managed to get one kill in the Primal Rage instead of the expected two that we expect him to
Double
get.
fist punch!
He used both fists on the same guy. That's always an interesting way to go about it. For Blank, they played against Synchronous Transcendence quite well. They waited that one out, but fortunately the rest of it was shambles.
Very forced ultimate out of Blank there. They do at least convert it onto Jongi. K-Momo goes down while he's throwing out the self-destruct as well. So even though he catches ATAR, actually Blank are looking good in this fight as Bacon Jack's pulse bomb doesn't quite close out RQT. So Blank just barely able to hold, really, because Jongi was maybe a little bit too deep. So good capitalization by Blank.
Absolutely, and Blank able to punish Jongi finally after Troll's been sort of caught out many a time by Flash, was able to get the return instead, is starting to move Blank in a situation where they're able to get these important returns that in a lot of the previous maps, they struggled to get those trades, and while they were able to get the hard commits, they couldn't get trade backs, and that's what cost them a lot of fights.
Now looking to contest this high ground. They don't want to give it up too easily. That's a great stick onto Zonda. There we go. That's what they need to maybe hold out this fight. They need to not lose anyone in this interim, but Flashwolves are paying respect to Zonda. They're going to wait for him to rejoin the fight before going aggressive.
Press, what is it, press E to pay respects? I don't know, whatever you bind it to.
Press F for Flashwolves.
And what do you press for Blank then? I don't even know. Don't answer that question. Blank, they weren't able to capitalize on further kills, so, you know, while they managed to get Zonda, they do stall out a decent amount of time. Actually, 1 minute 32 left is a very respectable defense so far, and actually, wow, getting another kill off the top. Blank are able to find a lot of good openings.
Yeah, Zonda goes aggressive now, looking to open up. They lose Kiki's mech, but that's all they've lost so far. Double Transcendence forced out, and Blank have kind of steered themselves through the hard yard. Zonda, unfortunately, goes down to his own Helix rocket there, and again, that just signals the opportunity to go aggressive. They do lose Kiki in this, but the tanks, there's no one really to keep them alive here. K-Momo loses the mech. Jongi's going to ult, which is a little bit interesting. He does take out Trill. There we go, the double fist punch again. But these are even trades. Now ATAR's able to go aggressive anyway. Jongi's going to lose this ultimate. Flashwolves aren't really getting any progress here. Maybe it's a stall for Blank, or maybe this is Flashwolves overcommitting. It's still hard to say, but it's certainly not favoring anyone. It's certainly not helping Flashwolves here that this has become so protracted now. It looks like they're starting to turn the tides a little bit, but no, never mind that. Trill going to close out on Zonda anyway. It's still nobody's fight, and it's just a lot of time wasted.
Bacon Jack might turn this one around. It's going to be the Tracer 1v1 to the side of all, but Blank do get the reinforce a lot quicker than Flashwolves do. And actually, you're right, Flashwolves kind of have wasted a decent amount of time here because we're running into the 30-second mark. In fact, we're below 30 seconds now, and Flashwolves are yet to get a really strong pressure on this kind of losing Bacon Jack as a big.
Bacon Jack goes down right as the team rejoins. Eat You Up did go down as well. Sound Barrier was committed and it didn't save him. They're still going to lose Kiki. No one is contesting Zonda. That needs to happen. ATAR forced back. They may just have to see this one at the last minute here. They're going to try and go for it, but they've actually lost too many members this time. Gunva still going to use his ultimate. They want to go for it right here, right now, and Trill will soon have an ultimate to stall this one out at least. But again, need to convert kills. Getting Zonda is crucial, but they need to not lose ATAR. They are going to lose ATAR and EU up at the same time as well, so no DPS to keep this fight alive. And it's going to be all on Trill, who is about to run out of ultimate charge as well. The cap will finally go through. No matter how you slice this one, Blank just don't have the members. They're not converting the kills. They honestly bled Flash Wolves for everything they were worth there. Flash Wolves are finally going to push this one over the line.
It was a really big struggle for Flash Wolves, so I think Blank, their biggest takeaway is you're still in a winnable position with less than 1 minute 30 left to go. You're still in a position where now the spawns favor you even more than they did in that Streets phase, and actually the third cap should be a better defense for Blank than the Streets phase anyway, so the fact that Blank were able to get such a great hold in that second checkpoint, I mean, with only a minute left to go now and a decent number of ults still coming online for Blank, this is holdable for sure.
It is holdable, but Flash Wolves are still Flash Wolves. They are still an incredibly strong team. They're trying to get the pressure onto Zonda quickly, but they haven't converted the kill. Now need to back off a little bit, not be too deep. Bacon Jack goes wide with the pulse bomb as Zonda goes down. Now they get the damage onto Jongi, and this is what Blank are after here. Bacon Jack may just be the only one to kind of scrape out of that one alive. EU up, unfortunately, going down here. But Flash Wolves paying respect here, backing off, not letting any more members go down.
And Blank won that one with only one ultimate use, if I'm correct on that. Yep. So that means they still have all of these other options, all of these other tools that they've been saving. And this is one of the most economical situations Blank have been in the entire series. And if they can really capitalize off this, they have survivability options, they have damage options. And Flash Wolves got a couple of those themselves, but they don't have the respawn advantage that Blank do.
Good contest at this high ground. It forces out the ultimate from Gunva. He's the first one to go with that. Now they have to convert. They're trying to use the tactical advisor to do that, but he's just forced off the high ground, and they're forced to use even more defensive ultimates. They have no aggressive ones of their own, but saving grace. Zonda has not found anything with his own tactical advisor. Payload has moved a little bit. Flash Wolves, though, they start to convert. That's a Zenyatta for a Zenyatta, and they still have ultimates to go off here. They lose Zonda. That's what Blank need now, crucially catching Bacon Jack in that as well. Jongi does get one with ATAR. Needs to get that second one, like we always say, but honestly, Trill is giving the rest of this team on lockdown. Finally gets Kiki. There's the second one for you. And actually, Blank, they're not really able to contest Jongi, unfortunately. Their DPS isn't really doing the legwork. ATAR will be able to respawn and rejoin the fight faster than Zonda here, but he has to hold up. Now they're going to have to force K-Momo's mech. They are going to make that happen. Eat You Up going to work now. Looking to consume the team as a whole. Oh, but Bacon Jack, who's looked from pig to man and man to pig. And now Flash Wolves suddenly have the aggression on their side. Just
Flash
a little
Wolves
bit.
are losing
ATAR finally able to swing back. Finally able to close it out. That is a lot of payload distance, but it is not a cap.
Wow, they managed to do what they couldn't do on Kings Row. This is a very similar sort of defense to what we saw on Kings Row. First cap was nothing to really write home about. Blank had a great run on the first cap at Kings Row, great run on the first cap at Dorado as well. Streets phase is where Blank's biggest strength is. They're able to hold up for a very long time on both Kings Row and now onto Dorado as well. But now onto the third cap, they held it out. They couldn't do it on Kings Row. They got blown out in a really big way. Here, they set themselves up in a situation where economically they were ahead. And then they won the follow-up fight from the Streets phase anyway. Flash Wolves kept on through, they committed, Blank punish, they put themselves even further economically ahead, and they were set up to just collect this victory the entire way through.
They still need to collect it though. They've ordered it, it has arrived at the post office. They need to collect it.
Before the post shop closes and you just never get it anymore.
They got to hurry because there's only what, 8 minutes.
I'll tell you what, it's peak hour traffic.
There's only 8 minutes until the post shop closes. There are no cars on the road, but it is peak traffic here at Dorado. Can Blank get there in time?
There's no traffic on the road.
There really is. There really is. I get that there's a festival on, but where are all the people? Like, there's no cars, but there's no people either.
Yeah. Where's Minya? Is she in the bread shop? Or what?
What's her name? Alejandra, that's right. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's right. Minya means girl.
No, well, actually, Nina means little girl.
Oh,
actually.
right. So there we go. Accurate.
And Nino would be little boy. So there you go. So slang term. And actually, if you wanna imply that something is littler or smaller, you add ito. So saying, for example, hermano would be brother, but hermanito would be little brother.
All right.
So Doradito would be a little
Oh,
Dorado.
I'd love for Senor Del Fuego to make it.
And I don't know, a Dorito is just a little door. I don't know. But here we go. Out the gate is Blank. They need to crack this one, and they need to crack it fast. They do still have a lot of ground to cover. It is very achievable, but they need to achieve it.
Had a fantastic defense. Now they got to get this fantastic attack as well. And I think they've had a rougher run on attack than they have on defense so far. And that's kind of
good contest. Good contest of Jongi. Going to be able to follow up on that one. They aren't quite able to convert the kill, but they've got the payload moving anyway. It doesn't really matter that he was able to retreat and that they killed Trill or anything like that. Eitar's going to be able to top off the health. They got a good amount of payload distance, and they haven't got completely held just yet.
Absolutely. Both teams didn't really get a lot of kills there, just sort of poking at each other, picking one up each. Blank able to respawn fairly quickly. There's another 1v1, but Eat-Up does not have that harmony of that Bacon Jack does in a lot of these 1v1s.
But what he does have is a kill on Realman and some payload distance as they crack Flash Wolves open. Look at this. Absolute destruction in the courtyard. And unlike Blank, Flash Wolves are not going to be able to get a second defense in this courtyard here. This is an absolute blowout now. They'll be able to push this one through. Not that Blank had much of a defense, but they at least had the opportunity.
Even finds Bacon Jack hiding on the side. I tell you what, if you're looking for the party on Dorado, you just found it.
The Blank party in Dorado. They're going to commit. I'm a liar. That's really aggressive, but Zonda's already down on the backside anyway. Jongi's not going to get any support from the rest of his team, and they committed the nano as well. He might just ult to try and bleed down the clock, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does that. That is exactly what he's going to do, but Eitar goes aggressive. The Transcendence is there to keep the rest of Blank alive. Committed the sound barrier as well. May have been a few too many resources, but look, all this really is Jongi and K-Momo stalling out with their tank ultimates here. Sure, that's something, but
Blank are not getting any more kills.
Yeah,
this is the problem.
Well, they're on the cusp. They need to close out on Jongi here, but their DPS is still untouched. Zonda's sure he's alive, but he's only just rejoined the fight because remember, he died so quickly, and now here he tries to go aggressive, but he's getting pushed out anyway. Blank is still actually in control of this fight. EDUP is still the uncontested Tracer here, and now again Zonda's being forced out. I feel like still it's only a matter of time until the cap goes through, and as much as the stall was good for Flash Wolves in the start, now it's just given a ton more ult charge back to Blank.
Absolutely, but at the same time, the good thing for Flash Wolves is they're giving some ult charge back now, but Blank also had to use a lot of ultimates, so they've sort of reset this ultimate economy stage where Blank would have come through with a lot of momentum. They would have come through with ultimates already charged. Now it's going to be Blank recharging them instead of using those ultimates now.
The only unfortunate thing though is dying so resoundingly in such numbers in that late part of the courtyard means you do give up this high ground here, which Blank are happy to take. They're going to have a Dragon Blade here.
I don't think Blank are going to hold on though.
No, but they can go straight back up to contest it anyway.
That's definitely the option they have with Eitar and Genji. And actually, Eitar's found a decent amount of success on the Genji that he hasn't been able to find on the Soldier. He might just
and
get a bit
there
more.
It is. Looking to go very deep, but good scattered by Flash Wolves now. Eitar, he can't quite deflect that Tesla cannon, but the rest of the team has the follow-up anyway as they're forcing out Jongi. EDUP finally able to close that one out, and Sinkler as well at the 11th hour. Zonda does strike one back, but the rest of Blank are converting his kills anyway. And that's exactly what I was saying. They still have the opportunity to recontest that high ground. That's exactly what they did. And they're getting a ton more payload moving to Flash Wolves.
Yeah, the bad news is Eitar unfortunately couldn't get enough out of the Dragon Blade. So well played by the tanks. And Zonda still get a party. He's not done yet. Drinking hour. The happy hour's not over for him.
Happy hours. He's still here to party, but Trill punished for going too deep once again. And Kiki tried to throw in that ultimate to save him, but actually kind of came a little bit too late. Now Flash also had the opportunity to go aggressive. Blank need to retreat, but they're opting not to. They're kind of sticking around. They're not respecting that Flash Wolves can go aggressive here. Finally going to be able to back out of this space here. Unfortunately going too deep.
And this is exactly where Flash will sort of struggle in that street space as well. They didn't respect Blank's ability to reinforce well. They didn't respect Blank's ability to continue the defense, to essentially continue that defense. Now for Flash Wolves and Blank, the sort of opposite thing has happened on the other side. So it's a full reset now for Blank, and they're fighting into what's about to be 6 ultimates. So a very hard situation for them to play in.
Hard indeed. Now let's see what they can do to crack it open, because a key pick could just change that altogether. And we all know what Eitar's Dragon Blades look like. All they really need to do is cap this point through, and then they had the time to kind of run down those ultimates out of Flash Wolves.
Well, unfortunately, we do know what it looks like, because sometimes they're great, and other times they've just been completely shut down, much like that force bomb out of Eat Up.
Yeah, it's very, very big for them, and Zonda's still uncontested in this corner. Eat You Up goes down. That's terrible for Blank on the open out of this one. And they haven't actually drawn ultimates out of Flash Wolves. They need to do that really now, and they need to not commit any more of their own. Otherwise, they may just never push it over the line here. They don't really have time for a protracted siege of this, and they're already getting repelled. Now AVRL goes aggressive, Trill as well, and they are going to at least force out those ultimates, but if they don't win the fight off this, then they're still going to have an uphill battle now with no resources. No one's gone down just yet, but they haven't got the kills just yet either. Finally forcing the sound barrier out of Realman, have to commit their own. Finally convert onto Sinclair. Force came Momo's mech. That's going to make the self-destruct come out. Jongi, 1 kill. Doesn't quite have the second one with that ultimate just yet, but good ultimate out of Kiki to give them a little bit more space, a little bit more breathing room, getting K-Momo's mech as well. Bacon Jack is still uncontested, but Eat You Up could still close this out as well. This is so on the line.
So pretty even as well.
That's
I think
big.
Blank might just be able to pull that one through. Zonda should be going down at any moment now.
Any
60
moment, or is it going to be
remain,
Trill?
But Flash was a still
The
respawning.
reinforced! Exactly, and now AVRL rejoins it, but he finds himself with no tanks, so they have to back off and reinforce, and they lose RQT on the back end. They at least drew all those ultimates out of Flash Wolves. That is actually so huge for them, but they still need to push it over the line.
And they still need ultimates of their own. They don't have any advantages to come in with. If they can get a miracle pick off of Eat Up or AVRL or somebody just got to get something done for Blank. Maybe they have an opening here. Flash will still don't have ults. This is now the only position where Blank can attack now. Less than 30 seconds left to go. Primal Rage is all they got to work with, and they got to make it work. Here comes Pulse Bomb as well.
They have to find something with it. You're right, exactly. Bacon Jack getting pressured, but not down just yet. They're trying to find something, but Trill is in trouble. Forced to ult, but that is at least a lot of tankiness. They need to convert kills. K-Momo's mech is a good place to start. They grab the pilot with no hesitation. Now the aggression, as they have to avoid Zonda. No one's blocking him up as he catches Gunba. Pulse Bomb goes wide from Eat You Up, and they're still struggling to convert these kills. Now Kiki in trouble. Ooh, barely wins the 1v1 against Zonda, but they lose AVRL anyway, as no one was protecting the DPS. Now Kiki goes down. Pulse Bomb secures the pilot, and Flash Wolves, they're holding on for dear life here. Blank, they're losing all their members now. It's just Trill. Gunba's not even here. Not enough at all. They won't get it over the line. 4-0 on day 1 of the grand finals for Flash Wolves. That is as bad as it could have gone for Blank.
Very unfortunate start for Blank all the way through, and I think, you know, right from the poll, the story was unfortunate start for Blank, and we're going to finish day 1 with a very unfortunate start for Blank, and this is not the way you want to enter the grand finals. I mean, if this was a straight best of 7 and it wasn't a 3-day event, I mean, it was a very difficult grand finals for Blank to be playing, and to not get a single map victory here, to come so close twice in a row, to come extremely close onto Hanamura, have a fantastic attacking time of 637, to not be able to close it up, to come so close onto Dorado, where having the successful defense and they're not getting over the line on even the second checkpoint. It's like Blank are able to get a few steps forward, but never enough steps to actually cross the finish line.
And time and time again, we're seeing them commit to these fights and giving themselves absolutely no space if things go wrong. Things are going wrong. Maybe they just straight up need to change their approach to these fights.
I think there's a lot to take away for Blank here. Certainly more to take away for Blank than for Flash Wolves. So, you know, Blank are a team that, when we look at last weekends against AHQ, they're a team that adapted overnight. They're a team that really were able to look at the results of their first day, and even though they won that first day, it wasn't a super clean win. They dropped 2 maps. They were able to come back on day 2 with a much cleaner record of 4-1. Now coming into Blank's home day tomorrow, they have that opportunity again. If they're a team that has already proven they can make a 24-hour turnaround, they're a team that has already proven, you know, to be able to adapt very quickly and find out the mistakes. And not only that, but they made enough mistakes, unfortunately, that they're able to then also now identify them and maybe fix them up. So it's a silver lining that although you did make a lot of mistakes, you still had a decently good run in the last 2 maps. Yeah. Can you now fix up those mistakes? Because if you can, that's where you're going to get a map win.
It is exactly the case, and they really do need to turn it around tomorrow. Unfortunately, the way this kind of sits, just because Flash Wolves have that opening day, look, Blank, they need to turn it around tomorrow. Let's say they do that. Once again, actually, the ball ends up in Flash Wolves' end of the court, and they have the opportunity to turn it back around again on day 3, and they would only need to pick up that 1 win. So now it is really backs against the wall for Blank. They need to turn it around, first of all, for tomorrow, and then need to step up their game again for day 3 anyway. Yeah. It's a really, really tough ask. It was already going to be a tough ask to match Flash Wolves here.
But before we get to tomorrow or even day 3, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because we still do have what I believe to be replays to look forward to, as well as the post-match interviews. Flash Wolves have already collected their sort of victory handshakes, and you know they're looking for a few more handshakes before the OPC season is done. And for Blank, they'd love to get a handshake victory.
Yeah, they'd like to collect a few themselves if they could tomorrow.
That's what you're really playing for. Like, it's forget the trophy, forget the money. It's all here for handshakes. But there's a lot of interesting moments to look back onto Dorado for that as well. It's we haven't when we get to the replay section of this, when we look at some of the plays onto Dorado, specifically Blank's defense, I believe is something to really consider, because they did have a very successful sort of defensive run on the Streets phase, pushed it into overtime, and then secured it on the third cap. But what really went wrong was the first cap, and really revisiting that, you might discover something.
And the other thing as well is on that second point as well, Blank not able to get it over the line. They just about had it there. And then once again, after suddenly looking so great, they fell straight back into the mistake that has plagued them all series long. And it is a mistake that had plagued them when they were having their loss streak as well. Trill was in too deep without support, and then the retreat failed completely. It's one thing for Trill to die, it's another thing for the remaining 5 members to be completely unable to retreat. If anything, you'd think if all of these members are focused on killing Trill, you have the space to retreat. Blank are failing to do both. That is a set of very serious issues.
At the same time, Blank were able to find some very good victories in those final moments on Dorado as well, because they were able to get good pickouts. Kiki beating Zonda in those 1v1s, which, when you really look at D.Va versus Soldier, you kind of give it to D.Va a decent amount of time due to the massive health pool. But, when you consider that Zonda's been consistently healed up, when you really look at it from Zonda's point of view, across all of Dorado, and I suppose across the entire evening, but specifically was quite apparent on Dorado, the man was insanely healed up throughout the entire evening. I mean, he's just eating up those heals. He's actually, at the same time, an extremely easy person to kill, an extremely hard person to kill, because he's easy to kill because he's in a position where you can engage him. He's hard to kill because even if you do engage him, his healing support is so good, you just can't outdamage it.
And protect the Zonda is a perfectly adequate game plan. AHQ did a similar thing for a while of protect the Dizzy, but teams started to really poke holes in it and figure out how to beat it. And actually, Blank was one of those teams. So maybe they can do the same here for Flash Wolves. But to be frank, Flash Wolves are playing Protect the Soldier more cleanly than AHQ did. So poking holes in that is going to be a much harder task.
And the other thing that for Blank that's a bit of a difficulty is they've gone 50-50 with the Tracers. And what we saw in the AHQ series was a very favored Tracer matchup. Now we don't get that. What we are going to get now is the replay into that initial attack on through from Flash Wolves.
Yeah, and this is where things started to go just a little bit haywire, unfortunately, for Blank here. Because what had already happened before this is they were forced off up to those stairs on the side. Yeah, that is the Jongi double kill. You're actually really right with that. It's the Jongi effect, as it were. But they'd already been forced off to the side up on those stairs. And when they were able to commit, it was through Flash Wolves. You want to commit onto Flash Wolves and ideally onto the objective when you do that. You don't want to have to try and send your members past, because honestly, your Zenyatta's never going to make it, right? You commit the nano boost onto the Winston, you're trying to buy the space to do that, but if that fails, and Flash Wolves don't have to send all of their members to turn around and deal with the nano boosted Winston, they can just wait, keep that blockade up. You just can't get into that fight.
Something else that didn't get revealed in replay, but what the events that led up to those, to what happened in replay was Blank lost someone really early. I'm trying to jog my memory. I think it was Eat Up. I could be wrong there. It was somebody. Someone died very early in that opening sort of section before you get to the archway.
It was Atar, actually.
And because he died very early, that led to a 6v5. Now we're going to get into the Streets phase, and this is when it gets really sort of dicey for Flash Wolves, and there was a very long, protracted up fight. Double Transcendence came on through. Sound barrier coming down for Blank as well. Oh, sorry, for Flash Wolves rather. So they really wanted to hold on to this fight. You can tell both sides really committed quite hard here, but at the end of the day, Flash Wolves, they got less favorable trades, and I mean, it's still sort of 50-50 here because both teams are just sort of able to get trades on each other.
And the thing that really starts to change the situation here, honestly, Flash Wolves just have the closest spawn. That's all it comes down to. Because they were able to get that double kill with the D.Va mech, it wasn't able to be a complete blowout for Blank. They only had a couple of members, and that meant they couldn't close out on the few people who were holding the line for Flash Wolves, and that was really crucial. Being able to get those extra respawns, if you go even, and you can get your extra members in quicker than the other team can, then you have a very real window to close out the fight, and that is exactly what Flash Wolves did there.
And it's sort of another situation as well where you really have to think about the situation and say, is this a fight we want to continue committing into, or we're going to hard commit into this and just throw everything at the wall and hope it sticks? Or is this something where we're going to say, let's pull back and reassess it, regroup and go back in? Because for Blank, they absolutely just used everything there. They traded Ultimate for Ultimate. Transcendence came out, responded Transcendence. Sound Barrier came out, responded Sound Barrier, and everything was, self-destructs even. It was just almost like, here's an Ultimate, we'll do the exact same one again. And it was very even, like both sides were getting very even trades. And I think at the end of the day, the straw that broke the camel's back, like you said, it ended up being the respawn. Blank couldn't respawn. They couldn't reinforce nearly as quick, despite getting even trades. They needed to get favorable trades. They needed to get a lot more trades, definitely in their favor.
Yeah, so this is now just a little bit later on in that same kind of fight, and this ended up being the absolute final one.
Yeah, so sure, that replay coming up there.
This one as well. Yeah, so, and again, what happened here was just quite a similar thing. This time though, ultimates weren't as much of a factor, but EU Up goes wide with his pulse bomb in a moment, and actually Bacon Jack ends up doing the exact same not long after. Zonda is able to get crucial trades back here, and then you start to see another thing happen in terms of respawn order. Look at how low right at this moment the members of Blank are. That is again the window, because it means they can't quite commit to the payload itself. That's the window for Flash Wolves to get some picks. That's exactly what happens here. And now they can really start swinging back. So it's a very similar situation of just kind of tiding yourself over through the hardest moment, creating a window and capitalizing it. And that is a process that Flash Wolves are executing on step by step without fail 99% of the time. I can't say the same for Blank.
I want to speak to the specific play there from Edith, because it was his point of view that when we were actually in that match, in that heat of the moment, it was Edith's point of view that we were watching it. He made a very wide flank around, tried to get the stick onto, I think it was Sinclair on the Zenyatta. They swapped so often.
It was someone.
It might have been Realman. Well, actually, but speaking of Sinclair, he ended up getting the play of the game on the Anna there, so there it is, well deserved. It didn't go to
I'm going to go ahead and say...
it didn't go to Bacon Jack.
Yeah, this is new territory. I'm going to go ahead and say it's for that sleep on ATAR and Hanamura.
Oh, that was absolutely sick. I did just want to really address Edup's play there as well, now that we've sort of seen the play of the game. But Edup's play, he did try and go onto the support, missed the pulse bomb onto the Zenyatta. He actually, I feel like, committed a lot of time there while his team was fighting 5v6, so that's a bit of a problem, because
kind of rejoined it and went, where is everyone?
You have one player that committed a lot of time to then not get that kill, and then to sort of, not get enough results off the back of it at the end of the day. I think at least you mentioned that Bacon Jack went wide with the pulse bomb as well, so that's at least a little bit more of a silver lining for Blank.
Yeah, that was actually a lie. He went wide with the pulse bomb in the previous fight. In that fight, he had connected it onto Kiki, which was honestly what actually ended up swinging the fight, and actually holding it until they had that window again. That's that step-by-step process, because a lot of tracers would go, okay, I've got pulse bomb. It can be a bit of a throwaway ultimate sometimes. You can just kind of use it, maybe get a pick and swing the fight right there and then, but if you don't, not the end of the world. Holding it and going, look, I want to get mileage out of this ult, I'm going to hold it for the right moment, is unusual but not incorrect, and it absolutely paid dividends.
So there it is. It's now Flash Wolves' 4-0 victory, and their win streak continues.
It really does.
4 extra maps now, 61 maps in the OPC since week 4 in a row. We're now into week 13. From the 4th week, they haven't dropped a single map, and that is a very scary thought to consider. And the next best team in this competition, which absolutely is Blank, no question about it. Blank is absolutely the team that has come closest to Flash Wolves, that has really challenged Flash Wolves. One of the only teams of 3 that has actually beaten Flash Wolves in the OPC itself. 3 match losses, 1 to AHG, 1 to Machi, and 1 to Blank.
Yeah, and we kind of said this is a fitting finals. It makes so much sense that these are the 2 teams that got there. I mean, we talked about it at the top of the night. Blank was so respected by all these Taiwanese teams coming into this tournament, and everyone felt, look, Blank are the team to beat. Then they went undefeated in the first round robin and proved it. They were the team to beat, and then someone beat them. And that someone happened to be Flash Wolves. And honestly, it's stayed that way ever since. Flash Wolves became the team to beat, and no one beat them. And no one has beaten them still. Blank still have one last opportunity to do it. But Flash Wolves, they're on the cusp of not just winning, but doing so in what has got to be one of the most impressive winning streaks I think I've seen in esports.
And it would be impressive if they can do it on Blank's home day, because I think Blank really struggle on the away day. They don't get that initial control pick. They don't get the assault pick, which is, I have to go back to this, and it's statistically their worst game mode. It still remains statistically their worst game mode. It's important that Blank get to choose what the assault map's going to be, and it's important that they get their best map pick for the control as well, because they need that early lead. If Blank do not get an early lead in the series against Flash Wolves, it's very difficult for them to come back. So the home day for Blank is extremely important, and they have to be able to really, this is where they're expected to have everything sort of fall their way to give them the best chance of winning.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, now there is just this very real kind of possibility for, honestly, Flash Wolves to surpass Blank's own previous win record. Blank's win streak, as it were, ended earlier in the tournament, much earlier. But Flash Wolves, they are absolutely rivaling them, and them being on their win streak now, with Blank's having ended, and they're not exactly getting back on that same horse, again, just speaks to where these two teams are right now as professional teams. Maybe that'll change somewhere down the line, but right here, right now, in this grand finals, Flash Wolves are the team to beat. Blank may be the team to beat them, but it's on them.
Blank are like a long road ahead of them. Something Blank can celebrate about tonight even is they've now, which I've just heard, set a new world record on land for professional competition on Hanamura, the fastest attacking time ever done in a professional setting online of 1 minute and 23 seconds.
Impressive.
So, I mean, I was kind of floored. That was a literal PogChamp moment for me because, I mean, the attack was so quick. I was like, is this real? Is this really happening?
Yeah, like I remember very early on, like there were a couple of videos going around of like really, really quick cap times on Assault, but yeah, doesn't surprise me that that's the fastest to happen.
All right, well, we're going to get into the post-match interview now, which I'll translate over into English. A lot of applause from the audience, and of course, it's Jongi's birthday.
生日快乐！大
So
家
happy
帮他
birthday.
唱生日快乐歌吗？
Would everyone help me sing the song? Everyone says
那你
yes.
起 key。
好，我起 key。
对。
我要怎么唱？好，我数
Would
1、2、
you
3
like。to start?
好。
1、2、3
So a countdown.
祝生日。
There he goes. Gets the full birthday song from the audience.
吃到老干杯。
哦，吃到老
拿到冠军，然后瑞要请我们吃。
So
老干杯，所以等一下不会去吃。
So when we win, we're going to have a big celebration for this as
还没
well.
有计划，因为还不饿嘛。
When Ray's going to take us
是
out.
有点饿了，但总大感觉看起来不太饿。他刚刚喝太多饮料了。
I am pretty hungry now, but I think Zonda's a little bit hungry. He's had a lot of soft
在
drinks.
这边讲一下，明天如果得第1名了，
So if you win
有
tomorrow,
什么感言？要不要现在先讲一下？
what are you going to
因
do
为我怕明
when you
天
win?
情绪
How are
太
you going
高
to feel
亢
about
啊，
it?
然后你可能就没办法讲。
感言哦，想看到队友哭吧，感动泪流，有没有那种感觉？然后我是不会哭。
因为我最
I
想看
says,
到
he
中华
says,
哭
I'll be extremely happy, but I
他看
won't
起来就很
cry.
男子汉，看起
And
来也
maybe
不会
maybe
这样不
Zonda
会
will
哭
cry.
就是明天逼他一下，因为明天他毕竟是寿星。
我觉得他哭的原因应该是因为终于可以吃烧
And
肉。
if Zonda cries, it's because it's tears of joy that
哎
he'll
而且
get
你
to
知道
have
你
some
们在那影片当
barbecue
中啊，你们
pork
为了一
after
个帽子
after
在那
the
边
match
抢
or
来
something.
抢去，只是看了有点就是想说，为了什么？然后想说，哎，今天里面的影片当中，谁 NG 最多次？
NG 最多次哦，
是你
我记得是辛可啦，我
Who
是讲
had
一次而已。
the worst
那时候
moments in the sort of
拿帽子就很尴尬，因为
tonight? It says
也
Sinclair.
讲也没有讲什么话，然后就拿那个帽子的画面就看起来很奇怪。我在看的时候一直笑，一直笑。
So they're talking about the house tour, and Sinclair made the most amount of mistakes in the house tour when they were filming it.
是吧？
我那时候真的是尴尬到会死，我真的不敢连那个影片我都不敢点进去看。
好，大家如果想看，可以自己去看。那我想问，在刚刚在花春的地图当
So
中，
on
它其实
Hanamura
是占领型的地图。那通常大家都会拖时间，但是今天被飞快的被破了
So
AD 点。那
that
你们
was an
在队
extremely
上的话
fast cap.
心情是觉得怎么样？
How did you feel about that?
那时候就 A 点，有讨论好怎么打。
So we had a plan for the first cap,
突然死掉嘛，不知道
but
为什么
Sinclair
他
died
中风
very
然后直接倒
quickly,
地
对，
然后
and it sort of really snowballed from there.
还没有恢复好心情，然后
We haven't really recovered
就
yet,
手的时候，然后就大家都黑人问号，然后不知道在干嘛。
and we couldn't really stabilize ourselves.
对，所以你们
And
当下
suddenly it was all
是
over.
傻眼了，为什么这样子？
就出乎意料之外，因为然后我们后来就有讲说，不要再失误，等下失误的话，烧肉要一个人要请客。
所以你们
So
就是刚
I think we're talking about
失误最多要请客。
所以是因为刚刚其他队员
someone's gonna have to pay for all the dinner tonight.
对啊，太心急太急了，就是没有准备好。
那你觉
Yeah,
得
but
今
we were
天
underprepared
在
for
队
that.
伍上面，你觉得他们失误到在哪里，让你们可以这样子那么快的可以把他们
So where did Blank play well for that to happen?
就是太急的开战了吧。然后
So it was very
他们如果
quick,
不
very
开战的
aggressive.
话，我们慢慢的去营运 整个
If they-
大决循环下来也是我们比较赚。
If they weren't as aggressive, we would have had more time to sort of plan what we were going to do.
所以他们明天如果没有很急的话，你们可能哇。
那他们可能永远
So
都
what
不会
would
开
happen
战
tomorrow if
然后
something
他
changed?
没踩爆点，我们就赢了。
OK， 好。
I think tomorrow we can fix that and get that win.
同组的
Much
8支
cleaner.
队伍当中，你有没有注意哪一个坦克是你
So-
觉得不错的？
So who do you think in terms of tanks that you really look up
每
to?
个都看过他们有没有在开实况或者是比赛的记录。我只有看过美国。
So I've been looking at the USA World Cup
可是
team.
我没有很专注的在研究他们的。
因为现在都在
I haven't too much of a chance to look at them, but I've seen a bit.
就是 OPC 嘛，对吧？冠军。
So right now I'm focusing on the OPC.
因为还有1个月嘛，大概还有1个
It's
月。
still a month before we go to the World
好
Cup.
有没有觉得那个奖杯离你越来越近了？
Do you feel like the trophy's getting closer? It says it does feel like it's getting a bit closer.
你要不要先站过去看一下？
Would you like to stand a bit closer to get a closer look?
今天你生日
可以摸吗？
It is your birthday.
摸不太好摸。
Can I touch it? She says probably not at the moment. You got to
明
earn
天
that.
可能 maybe 就是你不要摸。
算，他赔钱啊。
好，我们回来。
All right, let's go back.
好，我们再次呢，恭喜闪电狼
So
呢
one
赢
more
得
time,
这场的比赛。
congratulations
那今天的赛事呢
to
到
Flash
此
Wolves
结
for
束
taking
了，
their
那大家
victory,
不
and
要急着走
we'll
开，
be
因
able
为
to
接下来
hopefully
有
get
采
into a
访
couch
区的
interview
访问
after
之外
that
呢，
as
还有
well.
现
But
场的观众
a couple of
跟
good thoughts there from Flash Wolves. And if you weren't aware, Flash Wolves are the Chinese Taipei or Taiwan representative team for the Overwatch
yeah.
World Cup. So
Actually, Blank
their
are Australia's, by the
their
way.
entire and also Blank. So yeah, actually, this is a
Preview of the World Cup. If these two teams meet in the World Cup,
they're in totally separate groups. So
Yeah.
maybe they'll meet, maybe they won't. But interesting enough, you get to Team Australia versus Team Taiwan. Now we're going to head onto the couch with Blank.
教练沈热体来接受访问哦。对，那今天虽然是被4比0，但是我个人觉得是随败有荣，是因为我觉得你们给我们带来非常精彩的比赛。我觉得最让我印象深刻是花村的一个攻防，
Hanamura
双方
was
好像
extremely
都被
exciting.
防守都被秒破，但是攻击都打得非常激烈哦。想问一下选手跟教练怎么看待花村那场赛事
I want to ask you about
He
Hanamura
thinks that
specifically.
Hanamura was the most intense map in the series. Is there anything that special that you want to say about Hanamura?
I think we got a really good push initially. I think that's why that map was intense. Hanamura is not really a map that we practiced a lot, as you can probably tell by some of our pushes. So we're surprised with the result ourselves, actually.
大家也看到是我们第一波攻势就是做的真的很漂亮，但是也可以从成绩上来看的话，我们就对花村的话没有那么认真的去针对这样子。
那最后这边呢？
Anything you want to say about Hanamura?
I think like the first push as well, I think we just actually locked out with that push. We've always been like good at capturing first point, it's just we're so bad at second point. Like it's not a map we study or put effort into, and so we were going into that expecting to lose.
就是表示说他其实对我们第一次进攻那么成功也有点意外啊，但是毕竟那张图就是别人也看得出来，就是我们不是针对就是特别训练这张图，所以从成绩上也这样子就看得出来。
对，那也非常可惜，不然原本你们达成这个时间纪录，我们都吓到了。我们全部人都还没准备好，就直接拿下第2点，我们也是觉得非常的精彩。那也想问一下，就是你们今天对上闪电狼，那闪电狼今天的一个表现，想问一下你们怎么看？就是对于明天这样子。
What do you think of Flash's overall performance today?
I think today is more a story of our lack of good performance rather than their good performance. They're a really strong team. I think especially on stage they're a great team, but we failed today pretty badly. I think we felt a lot more confident against HQ. I think we lacked some of that confidence against Flash Wolves.
他是表示说，闪电狼在舞台上，在比赛场地上的表现非常，就是怎么说，就是在现场的表现的话，他是觉得说会比平常练习的还要优秀。相较我们比较起来的话，就是比较没有那么稳定。
就是在训练的时候会比较稳定。
对，就是还是就是现场气氛的关系啊，毕竟大家都是支持闪电狼队，我们多少还是会有一些影响。
哦，但是我其实我在聊天室看到很多人在支持你，那也希望你明天这样。那去了这边
What do you think of Flash's overall performance today?
I've always like rated Flash Wolves as a pretty good team, so I think Bacon, Jack, and Jongy are like the best two in that team. Like their team work together, and they sort of carry the team a bit. I think, like they're their main two. But I think it was like a disappointing performance from us, honestly.
他是觉得说他是认为闪电狼一直认为闪电狼都是一个很优秀的队伍，然后他是认为说这个队伍上最厉害的2个人就是季炯加上培根，然 他们2个人的配合是默契是非常默契，他是比较对于说我们今天表现有点失望。
也看出来你们有一些小失误，但是明天是你们的主场日，你们可以去拿出你们的底牌跟秘密武器来针对闪电狼了。你觉得对明天的自信怎么看？
就是毕竟闪电狼已经有两个星期没有打任何比赛，所以我们对他们的一些分析也没办法说做到像他们针对我们。毕竟我们上个礼拜才打了两天，跟 HQ 打了2天，所以其实这个就是奖励闪电狼在循环赛的时候拿到第1名。所以这个也无话可说，但是就是觉得说，这个对于第2名跟第3名的劣势有点太大了。
对，就是闪电狼其实报的是有非常大的对战人数，2天的主场日可以看到你们非常多的情报。所以虽然明天是主场日，相对也是一场硬仗，对不对？那这边的话想问一下，就是平常教练好像在台上的站赛前喊话呛声都是刚把响的，那想问一下，明天会想出什么类似的？
So you've had some, you fired some shots on
会尽
stage.
力而为。
会尽力而为吗？所以明天
on stage in the pre-match interviews.
凶出来，对不对？
其实说这种话，就不太适合我的。
Sorry, I'm not used to
我实在是不是擅长说这种话的人。
I'm not that type of person.
毕竟就是还是要为这团队争取。
But I think for the purpose of competition, also for our own confidence, morale,
打压对方的，所以还是必须要做啊。但是
I think it's good for the competitive nature, but it's not really my personality.
累了，那我也非常期待你们明天的表现，那是否能给我们带来第3天的一个赛事，也是我们非常期待的事情哦。那我们这边也谢谢我们请到
Thank you very much to Blank, Serenity, Trill, and Gumba.
再见。
And that closes out day number 1.
That it does.
Gumba had some really interesting thoughts there. I think he was very honest and he definitely sees the way the match was today.
Yeah.
And a very realistic approach to the results from today. And I think that's part of the journey to adapting, and especially adapting quickly, because you have to be very honest with what happened.
Yeah, and that's always been a strength of Gumba, actually. I did kind of mention that at the top of the night in a bit of a different context, but that is the source of a lot of their strength, like you say, in turning things around. But on the side of Flash Wolves there, you heard Jongi say it, and it's his birthday today as well. What a great way to celebrate it. Not quite over for them yet. Closer to that cup than ever before, but not quite there yet. There is 1 day to get past, and Blank are no slouches.
Absolutely, and Trill says something interesting as well. He definitely rates Jongi and Bacon Jake as the 2 players to watch out for. And we've jokingly said, look, it feels like the Flash Wolves coin flip. And on one side you have Jongi, on the other side you have Bacon Jake, and both of those are absolutely, the massive players in both teams. You flip the coin, no matter what you land on, it's a winning play. It's like you have a coin, it's a loaded coin, both sides are heads.
Yeah.
And so.
Except for that one time it lands on the bit in between, and it's
that's why Sinclair got play of the game.
Yeah, or it's like K-Momo just gets a triple or something. That's when it lands on the. Sometimes.
They have a lot more moments to sort of see that tomorrow. I'd be very interested to see how Blank are going to be able to adapt now going into their home day. I think home day is definitely their advantage. I mean, everything sort of points towards them performing quite well at the home day, as well as the fact that they have the ability to turn around quite quickly and fix up their mistakes. So all that and more, I think we have to look forward to tomorrow, as we're about to wrap up day number 1 of the Grand Finals. Flash Wolves versus Blank Esports. I've been Kevin AVRL Walker, joined with me for the whole evening, Matt, Pixie, Carol, and from everyone in the Full Circle production team. Thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow.